The video you're about to watch is the most detailed explanation of how to manifest your dream life that you're going to find here on YouTube. And most of you are not going to watch the whole thing because it's 2 hours long, but those of you who do are going to have your lives changed forever. This video was filmed over the last 3 weeks. We did a 3-part series on how to manifest your dream life. The first part is called Write the Future. Then we did Level Up in Life. And then we did Craft Your Legacy. All 3 parts have been stitched into this video because the feedback that I got from the live streams was crazy. They said, Lewis, this is the best video series that you've ever done. It's the most eye-opening and it's the most life-changing. More people need to see this. And when I edited it up, I thought, yeah, I'm going to put it on YouTube. I don't normally do this, but I felt called in this case to put this one on YouTube. And so I ask of you just one thing, please. Give me 10 minutes. Watch the first 10 minutes of this video. And if by the 10-minute mark it doesn't resonate, click away and get on with life. But if at the 10-minute point you are feeling a little bit like this video has come at the perfect time, then keep watching all the way to the end. And if you get to the end, let me know. I have a suspicion that a lot of you are in a time or a phase of your life where this video has landed in front of you, not by mistake. So watch it. It could just be perfect, divine, and right on time. This is a beautiful piece. Enjoy.
Good morning, everybody. The Grand Master Plan. Part 1, write your future. You're here because you want more. You want more health, you want more wealth, you want more money, you want better business, you want more wisdom. You want to have better and stronger and deeper and more meaningful relationships. You want to have more of a social influence. You want to have a closer or deeper connection to your spiritual calling or your purpose in life and feel as if your life has some sort of a meaning to it. I mean, in the lack of that, life is very bland. You go into like a nihilism where nothing means anything and you're just going along with the motions, and that's not inspiring. And overall, you want to have a bit more of a life mastery. Does anyone here not want any of these things? Does anyone here want less money tomorrow morning or worse relationships? Okay. Let me know. Let me know if you want less money and I'll send you a little link and you can send all your money to me. And so what we're trying to do here is with GMP, you have a software now. If you're watching this call, you have some sort of a software. It's called GMP. And it looks like this. And at the end of it, when you do the process, you get to print out a book and it will be called the Master Plan of Your Life, the Grand Master Plan. I want to share a story about one. This was from about 4 years ago, the 2022 Grand Master Plan. This is Robin's story. I don't know if some of you have heard this, but Robin's cover photo for that year was 2022. It was this beautiful, you can see here, a penthouse on the Gold Coast and the sun's rising over the water. You guys can see this. And what was in her GMP for that year was 5-bedroom penthouse on the Gold Coast. Now, I don't know if you guys are aware of the Gold Coast apartment market, but let me tell you, 5-bedroom penthouses don't exist. They do exist, but they are very, very, very rare. 3-bedroom, sure. 4-bedroom, maybe. 5-bedroom doesn't exist. It's very, very rare. And so she wrote down 5-bedroom penthouse because we work from home. We have 2 offices and we also wanted to have kids in our future, in our Grand Master Plan. Okay, so we wrote down 5-bedroom penthouse on the Gold Coast, on the water, and we wanted jet skis. That was part of my goal that I infused in there. And we started getting very, very, very clear on the house that we wanted to live in. We had photos here. It was so inspiring and so meaningful that year to move into a new place that we made it, Robin made it the cover of her particular year. Okay, now that's all well and good. That sounds fine. Until you realize that when Robin wrote this was the end of 2021, and we lived in a house in Brisbane, and it was actually the worst 7 months of my life. I put a video on YouTube about it. I don't know if anyone saw that video. If you haven't watched that video, it's kind of funny. Go watch it. We lived in this house in Brisbane in a place that we absolutely hated. Probably not an exaggeration, worst 7 months of our life. And so when we wrote the GMP for that year about our dream house, we weren't living in the dream house yet. Do you understand? Now, what happens is we were in a time of our life, we didn't like our living, we started putting it into the GMP, we got very, very clear on it. Robin did one, I did one, we both agreed on what we wanted, and we started to visualize that every single day. Within 6 months, we woke up and this was our morning, the little video. Within 6 months of Robin doing that GMP and printing it out, we moved into this apartment. And on the first morning we woke up with when I filmed this video, I said, Robin, show me your GMP. And it was on the little side bench or whatever. And she pulled it out and we looked at it and it was almost identical to the image that she put on the front of her GMP. Now, it was a 5-bedroom penthouse on the Gold Coast, on the water, with a Marina Berth M for mockers, which is the actual Marina Berth now that we own, and so I could get my jet skis. It was everything to the letter that we put into our GMP. And that's interesting. But you know, what people don't understand is that there was some mysterious shit for that to even manifest, for that to even happen. 4 angels, a suicidal cat, and an old friend. And some people don't know this story, so let me share it really quickly. We lived in this house. We're having a terrible time. We thought, fuck this. We're going to go all in on our GMP, and we're going to really focus on what we want. We're going to do the manifestation meditation, both of us together. We started doing it at the end of 2021. I'm going to show you how to do that in a moment. By the middle of the next year, 6 months later, this is what happened. We had 4 angels come and visit us. And by angels, I mean actually they were hooded teenage thugs with a machete who wanted to break into our house and kill us, is what I mean by 4 angels. But they came just at the perfect time in our life. We manifested them in. And what they did in our old house is they really spooked us against living in a house. And what they did was they created a catalyst in our lives, Robin and I, to be like, you know what? We are not staying here anymore. We had 2 years more of a lease at that old place. We're like, fuck this. We're breaking it. We're leaving. The angels came and said, hey, Robin and Lewis, this life is not for you. It's time to move on, and it's time to get you into that apartment, that penthouse that you want. And so we're going to come and try and break into your house. Don't worry, you'll have great security, so we won't actually get in and cause any real harm, but we're going to spook the fuck out of you so that you can go and manifest your dream life. Good? We had 4 angels come visit us in the middle of the night. Then what happened, at the exact moment that these 4 angels come to our door to help us move up in life, there was a suicidal cat on the Gold Coast living in this apartment where we are right now. And it was the old tenants of this place. And the cat jumped over the balcony, and we're 6 levels up here, and nearly killed itself, nearly jumped off the balcony out here. He didn't, but that spooked the owner. And so we got spooked out of our old place. The owner here, or the renter here, got spooked out of this apartment, and he had to break lease. We broke lease, he broke lease at the same exact time. And in the morning, we loaded up the real estate website, and guess what shows up at the perfect time? This apartment. And so Robin and I get in the car and say, that's the apartment that we're moving into. We get in the car, we race down here, we walk in, and within 10 seconds of walking into this foyer here, this apartment that we're in now, we're like, Robin turns around and she's like, this is it. This is the apartment. And then we walk out to the balcony, we look down at the Marina Berth M, and where our jet skis will go. And then the guy who was managing the properties, his name was Dougie. We were talking to him and said, this is perfect for us. This is exactly what we want. We used to live in an apartment like this in Brisbane, in a place called Tennyson. And he's like, oh yeah, Keith and Heather used to manage that. And we said, oh yeah. They were our property managers for 8 years in Brisbane, and they just happened to be best friends. And so we had all of these other people who were about to inspect this property after us. And because we had an old friend, it was a shoe-in for us. He's like, oh yeah, don't even worry about the application and the references. I'll get you in. And so it was a weird thing. 6 months after we put this into our GMP, all of this weird shit happened at the perfect exact time to get us into this property. And then we moved in, and that was 3 years ago, and we love this place. And we have since purchased the place because this is the coolest apartment ever. We love it so much. And it's very hard because we've got to work. We have 2 offices and some kids. It's very hard to find a penthouse that's this big, that's not $10 million. They're getting crazy price now. Does that make sense? Is anyone here? Let me know in the chat. Have you ever heard that story? 4 angels, the suicidal cat, and the old friend. Now, the thing is, that was one story in our GMP. That was our apartment. This has happened now since 2017. This has happened in our apartment. This has happened for our cars. This has happened for our relationships. You should see Robin's photos of how she wanted to do parenting and pregnancy. The photos that she put in are identical to how her real life looks now, raising a young boy on the beach at the Gold Coast. Even to the cars, to the car seats, it's all manifesting. This has manifested our business. When I started writing, my School of Mastery did not exist, and I wrote down exactly what I wanted to be doing. And what I'm doing, even at this very second, sitting in my home, having just woken up, and I get to do what I love to do. I get to teach, I get to create cool things, I get to help people master their lives. That was what I set out in my initial GMP, and this is what I do now for a living. Everything that we put into these books manifests. And what I'm going to do now in the next few minutes is I'm going to try to explain the mechanism of what's actually happening here. How does this actually happen? So, 3 parts. First part is the creation process you need to understand. There's a beautiful book. It's called Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. Has anyone ever read that book? If not, I recommend that you put it on your book list. In GMP also there's a book list, a read list. Build that out. Put this on it. It's a beautiful book, particularly the audio book on Audible. It's really cool. One of the beautiful quotes is, all things are made of energy. And so if you actually look into the universe and you get all of the physical mass and matter and atoms in the whole universe, every single element in the periodic table, every table, desk, every book, every car, every planet, star, and sun in the whole universe, and get all of that matter, could you imagine how much matter is in the universe? There's a lot. You would have to get the number of atoms and multiply it by 1 billion to get the number of photons that are in the universe. The universe is primarily photons, light, and energy. The vast majority of the universe is energy. There's only a very small percentage of it that is actually matter. There's only a very small percentage of the universe that is actually manifested and crystallized into matter. So all things are made of energy ultimately. Energy is God. Creation happens when the pure energy slows its vibration down until it crystallizes into matter. Here's the process. 1, to become physical, energy has to slow down. 2, matter is just energy at a very low vibratory state. And so we have spirit, which is the highest vibration, thought, which is high vibration, and then physical form, which is crystallized, condensed thought, the lowest form of vibration in the universe. It's all the same thing at different states of vibration. So even Einstein told us that E = mc squared. Energy and matter can be interchanged. Energy is matter, just in a different state. Just as the same way as that an ice cube is water, is steam. It's all the same thing vibrating at different rates. And this is the essence of the creation. So to create, you start with spiritual essence, and then you think about it, and you think so intensely on it over a long enough period of time with enough consistency and congruency in that thought that eventually it crystallizes, manifests. Now, this is one of the reasons that we do this. We'll get to that. Part 2, you have to understand your triune nature. All human beings are 3-part beings. We have 3 different aspects. We have our soul, our mind, and our body. Our soul indicates desire, the soul-guided desires, I sometimes call them. The mind chooses between the options, and the body enacts that choice in the physical plane. The soul is our spiritual realm, the mind occupies the mental realm, and the body occupies the physical realm, sometimes what we call real life or the real world. And so this is the equivalence of steam, of water, and of ice. It's all one at different states of vibration. So all creation is a slowing of the vibration. Okay, part 3, the diagram. Now what I'm going to do is infuse these 2 ideas together and give you an overarching diagram. This is, by the way, a compilation of about 10 major thought leaders and philosophies out there of the creation process of the universe. Here we go. This is you. And I've enlarged your head, and I've split your mind into 2 aspects. There are 2 aspects of mind. Initially, Plato came up with that. There are 2 aspects of mind, and he called it the reasoning mind and the emotional mind, the lower mind. So what I do is I draw a line here representing, so below this represents the body or the physical plane. This middle part represents the mind in its 2 aspects, which we'll go into detail. And then above the line at the very top represents the soul, the spirit. And so you have a 3-part being: soul, mind, body, spiritual, mental, physical plane. Now, the background color is just because at the top is ultraviolet, violet, and down the bottom is red. And so that's also to signify the frequency. And so the higher frequency colors are violet, and then it go down through the rainbow down to low. Higher frequency at the top, a slowing of frequency is the creation process downward. Steam, water, ice. Everyone following along so far? Now, what I do is I split the mind into 2 areas, the higher mind and the lower mind. So up the top is your soul. This is the spiritual plane. Sometimes the soul is used as an acronym for the state of unconditional love. There's no emotion here. There's no impulses and instincts. Nothing's missing at the level of the soul. All you have is an unconditional love. This is the Garden of Eden and the kingdom of heaven In some of the biblical allegories, there were stories about how you start out in the Garden of Eden, and it's eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It's the good and the evil. It's the judgment. It's the polarity that slows the vibration, kicks you out of the Garden of Eden, and you have to go live in the physical plane, working through your stuff in life. But at the end of it is the Garden of Eden. It's the kingdom of heaven. This is the formless substance by Wallace D. Wattles. Now, the higher mind aspect is called the I, the lower mind is the me. In Hermeticism, they called it the I and the me. Or in other words, the higher mind and the lower mind. The ego and the id. Freud called the higher mind the ego and the lower mind the id. And the way that you can remember that easily is the id was the idiot. It's your inner idiot. It's the part that gets pushed around and it does animalistic, impulsive, emotional things, whereas the ego is the true self. There's all this kind of new age stuff about how the ego is the enemy and all this kind of crap. You look up the origin of the word ego, though, and it means the I, the true self. So the ego is not the enemy. What they mean is, when they talk like that sometimes, is they mean that ego being a proxy for hubris, pride, and narcissism compensations. But these are just behavioral traits that are compensation mechanisms, and we can talk about that probably another time, not in the scope of this session, but that's what they mean. They conflate that with ego, but really the original meaning of the ego was the true self. Now, if you want to actually master your life, you want to be your true self. So you don't want to make your ego the enemy, that's for sure. That's a bit of a misnomer on some of the new age stuff. So this is the true self. This is the superconscious. Lower down here, this is the subconscious. We have the higher mind, lower mind, the projective mind and the receiving mind, or sometimes it's called the masculine aspect and the feminine aspect, the Adam and Eve principle of your own mind. And the way that you can prove that yourself is you sit in meditation really quickly and you just look within and you realize, if you ponder on it, that you have a projective mind and a receptive mind in the one mind. There's part of your mind that gives the orders, that projects, and it has a vigor about it. It's a masculine aspect. You give out seeds of thought. You give out your ideas. You're a projector. There's another part of your mind that is the receiver, and it's receiving all the ideas. Now, if your higher mind is very, very weak, like what the Hermeticists said thousands of years ago, they said, the difference between people who master their lives and the masses of people who are just slaves, who are just NPCs, is their higher mind's turned off. And they have what I now call gravy brain. They're walking around like fucking half asleep zombies. And what they do is they just inject all of the ideas of the other people in their life, the authorities in their life. And they have a life that is not really their own life. So the higher mind is your seed and the lower mind is your womb. They sometimes call the high mind the father, the lower mind the mother. And so what you have given birth to in real life, the real life that you have around you here, was born from the womb of your lower mind. Now, if your soul-guided higher mind actually inseminated that, actually gave the initial seed, then you're living congruently. You're living on purpose. You have a soul-guided higher mind that's impregnating the womb of your lower mind, and you're acting out on that. And you have a congruent life. You have a life that is a symphony. But to the degree that you let all the other masculine higher minds in your life inject your lower mind, you become the cuckold, and you're giving birth to all the people's other ideas in your life. And you have a cacophony, and you're pushed and pulled and stretched in this way, and my mum thinks I should do that, and my boss needs me to be doing this, and the wife is yapping about this, and the kids need me there. And you're completely scattered out. And people, that's majority of people, by the way. All creation and manifestation is a downward movement on this scale, from the soul through the mind into the physical plane. All spiritual evolution is upward. And so, by the way, just to balance this equation, we're not just here to make shit in the material world, we're also here to overcome the things that we think matter. Matter is the densest form of vibration, but now in the mental plane, the things that matter for us are the things that we're hung up on, the things that we're still charged on, the things that we still see good and evil in, that we're judgmental on. We've still eaten from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, but our spiritual journey is actually to transcend that. And so, earthly purpose, just to clarify one of the other misnomers on the internet in modern day self-development, is that you're here to do both. You're here to create and create a beautiful life in the physical plane and maximize material beauty, but you're also here to transcend it all as well. and to transcend the stuff, and really to ultimately remember that nothing matters anyway. It's just a game that we're all here playing. It's all a fun thing, and we can enjoy the journey the whole way through. Does that make sense? And so we're here to do both. Good? Now, let's clear this slate. Let me do one more diagram. So let's just say this. Let's say that you knew how to get clear on what your true, deep, soul-guided desires were. The purest desire. What you really want, deep down. And let's just say that lit up the higher part of your mind like this, and it was clear. And you know, I'll give you an example. It's like, when something's real. It's like when you think about a goal or a vision or some sort of a desire for you, that's not this impulsive pleasure-seeking thing, but rather it hits you right in the heart. You feel it. You feel absolutely destined and called for it. You feel like it opens up your heart, gives you a bit of goosebumps when you think about it. You feel absolutely destined for it. That's often an indication that it's a soul-guided desire, true desire, pure desire. Now, if your higher mind is strong and erect and it inseminates your lower mind, the lower part of your mind, beautifully and clearly and without distraction, then guess what? You plant the seed into the womb of your lower mind, or the mother, and what will happen is inevitably you will give birth to whatever it is that true desire. When you have a pure desire and it is unfiltered, unclouded, and you manifest on it, it will come true. And weird shit will happen in the universe to make that come true. Weird shit like cats killing themselves and angels getting sent to your door at exactly the right moment. Weird shit happens. We've seen it for 7 years now doing this process. You will have a hard time convincing me that there is not a magic in this process. There's not a real power to this process. And so when everything's aligned and congruent, you manifest. You create the fruits of what you would love to have. And I don't want to say easy, but it's relatively effortless. Here's what fucks it up. Because at the same time as you have a higher mind and a lower mind, and the higher mind projects into lower minds in the universe, goes around fucking everyone in the lower mind, fucking all the women. That's why you don't want to have a slutty lower mind who just is open to receiving all the seeds of thought of all the other people in the universe. And you have a limp higher mind, the masculine part. You need to be erect. You need to project what you want onto the universe. So what happens is your parents have a higher mind, lower mind. Your preachers have the same. Your peers have the same. And just about everyone else in the world has the same thing. And they're operating in the same way. But what happens is that their higher-minded intention, their own soul-guided desires or their values, they project down into you. Same to your teachers, same to your peers, and same to just about everyone else in the world. So to the degree that you look up to other people and you make idols of them, in the Bible over 100 times, they say, don't worship idols. Don't have people who you look up to. Don't have false authorities in your life. Is the false authorities you put up, they inject their ideas into the womb of your lower mind, and that's what you give birth to. Now, the problem is that everyone's got different ideas. Everyone's going to project their own ideas onto you. And if you're listening to multiple people, you're going to have a cacophony of seed in the lower mind, and your life will be a fucking shit show. And this is the majority of people. Their health is up the piss, their business is all fucked up, their money has weird ways of running away from them all the time, their relationships are up, down, left and right. Crazy fucking lives people have. They're living crazy lives. And so what happens is when you're having this, the voice from your soul-guided higher mind calms down. Or maybe more accurately, it gets harder to hear. And all the other voices on the outside are dominant. And so you see here, the top two arrows just went lighter, they faded away. The voice becomes quieter, the true voice, the pure thought. And you're living your whole life now by the whims and the goals of other people. And so what happens now is that your manifestation, what actually shows up as the fruits of your life, starts to turn muddy. It turns ugly. You have a cacophony. Now, this part here, the mind, this was the overlap of many, many thought leaders. And so there's a beautiful book called Power versus Force. At the top, you have enlightenment. At the bottom, you have shame and guilt. And you're trying to live for other people. And right at the middle point, you have the courage line. And this was the scale of consciousness. This is power versus force. And so most people, by the way, he believed that are living down here in force. They're forcing it. They have to live a life of, they got to force it. Whereas To the degree that you can genuinely empower your life, you're living from a more of an abundant state, and things come about relatively effortlessly. This is the same thing as the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, by the way. Down at the very bottom, you are in impulses and instincts, and you're in survival, trying to please and appease other people, trying to live for them. And as you transcend, eventually you get to this point here where you're more predominantly living by your own soul-guided high mind. There's a journey to get there. It's not everyone's thing. Not everyone does that, but eventually you get to self-actualization and transcendence, and you don't care what the people around you want. You don't subordinate to them, and that's when you start to master your life. Now, another way of looking at this is at the top you have your soul's desires, and you're down the bottom here. The soul's desires is like a little speaker that whispers like this, and what's happening is that your parents and your spouse and your influencers on the internet who you look up to and make idols out of, and the society at large, they're all hurling their ideas towards you in your ears, and it's very loud. And what's happening in relativity is that your soul-guided desires, you cannot hear them. And so the Grandmaster Plan, software and process, this whole strategy is trying to help you to get clear on what is your true soul-guided desires. And we're trying to turn the volume up on this. This is a process, is what I call the anti-course. When you buy GMP and you sit down and you answer 600 questions, guess what it's not doing? Guess what you're not doing? You're not actually blindly following what someone on the internet is telling you, you should be doing this and you should be doing this. It's the opposite of that. What it does is actually ask you questions that forces you to go within and pop the answer out. And if you get into the habit of doing that, say 600 times, by the end of it, you start to develop that muscle. You start to get better and stronger at going within first, rather than just blindly listening to what everyone else says you should be doing. And that is a muscle that I believe that most people need to work on, need to work out on. So, the Grandmaster Plan. Now, interestingly, one of the biggest questions that we've ever got from running this program is, when we first started, we didn't actually have the examples on the, I'll show you in a minute what it looks like. We didn't actually have the examples. And so I'd ask people questions like, so if money were no limiting factor, where would you love to live? What would your house like to look like? And you know, one of the funniest things is what the feedback, people said, can you provide more examples of what other members have said? You know, isn't that a funny default thing? It's like, God, I want to know what other people say. It's like the very longing to want to know what other people say is the problem here. That's the reason your life's a cacophony, is because you cannot help yourself but to just do what everyone else thinks is the right thing. It is the actual act of going within and working on that higher-minded muscle, making him big and strong and fucking erect. That is the power of the process. And so don't worry what anyone else says. Go within and get real with yourself. If you had to think of no one else in the universe, what is true for you? What's the pure thought? What's the pure desire? The soul-guided desire. I'm now going to give you the manifestation meditation. This works with 100% certainty every single time if you will just do it. 1, write this down. Choose an area of life. It could be health, wealth, wisdom. There's 7 areas here in GMP. 2, you're going to ignore absolutely every other person in the universe. Your parents, your mum, your God, your Pastor Bill, who wants 10% of your income and feeds you garbage, your wife, your husband, your children. You're going to ignore everyone, and you're going to tap into the pure thought. 3, you're going to look within, and you're going to choose what you want in that area, a pure soul-guided desire. Number 4 is you're going to imagine now an event which implies the fulfillment of that desire. I'll give you an example. We did that for our house. So the area was our living situation, and the event which implied the fulfillment was waking up in bed in the morning, facing east and watching the sunrise over the horizon, the farthest horizon, and looking out over the water and the reflection of the sun glistening off the water, and then getting out of our bed and our feet hitting the floor, beautiful carpets and beautiful view, living at the Gold Coast, smelling the salt air, feeling the southerly breeze on our face as the sky was beautiful and orange, and waking up for the day. And so there was a little video that we played in our head, and that's what I want you to do. Whatever it is, play that video in your head over and over and over and over and over. If it helps, you print photos and you put them in your GMP as well, and you look at them every single day. But you imagine an event that implies the fulfillment. Number 5, you feel yourself right into the event. Or in other words, you have to see it and feel it as if it's now, as if you're there, as if you're present with it, as if you've already achieved it. You've already got it. And you need to feel yourself into the event. Now, your mental video of you waking up, getting out of bed, for example, was one of ours. That little video in your head might last 15 seconds. You get out, you kiss Robin good in the morning, you get out of the covers, feet hit the floor, you walk to the door, open it up, walk out into the balcony, look at the sunrise, breathe in the salty air. That might be a little 15-second loop that you play over and over and over and over. And if that was true, if that was real, if that was my life, then I'd already have my goal, my dream house, my dream apartment in our case. And so you need to feel yourself into the event. It can't just be this thing that you just do, surface level. You need to really feel it. You need to feel like you're present with it. You're certain about it. You're absolutely inspired by it. You love it. If it were to come true, you would love this place so much. You're grateful for it already, for having manifested. And the vibe that you want to say, or the spontaneous words that should emerge is, yes, this is me. This is mine. Thank you. It's done. And you are flooded with enthusiasm for the manifestation of this goal. If you can do that, and you do that for long enough, it took us 6 months. And we had to break lease and we had to control the strings of the universe to make things happen in weird ways. And so it took 6 months for us to happen with the apartment. Some will be months, some will be years, but keep at it. Now, here's the magic key that you need to understand is that you're already doing this. You're already doing the manifestation meditation 24 hours a day. And so let me explain. Every day you have 1,440 minutes, and you have on the screen here is to scale 1,440 dots. And so 8 hours of that is your sleeping. Again, then what you might do in the morning is you might do a little bit of meditation. 5 minutes of meditation, or I hope at least 5 minutes of looking through your GMP every day and reading. Or once you've got this printed, by the way, you just open it up every single day and you just read it during your morning coffee. We keep it on our coffee table because I think it looks beautiful and it's inspiring, and this is what you want to do. You want to keep this stuff top of mind. And so you might read it for 5 minutes a day or meditate on it. Then what most people are doing is that they're going into autopilot. They're getting in the car, sitting in traffic, listening to the radio, going to work, blah, blah, blah. They're on autopilot. They're not actively manifesting or thinking about what they want. In fact, probably if they're in a normal career, they're spending a lot of their time putting out fires and fixing things. And what happens is when you're fixing things is you're actually probably thinking about all the things you don't want, all the things that could go wrong. And so you're doing the inverse manifestation meditation. Blue part. Then what you're going to do is you're going to spend a couple of hours, like I said, doing reverse manifestation, thinking about the fears and watching the news and doing all, thinking about all the things that you don't want to come true. And you're thinking on them visually and intensely as if they're already here and they're already now, and you're adding emotion to the mix. And what you're doing is you're manifesting what you don't want. Then what you do is you catch up with some friends, and you're doing reverse manifestation with friends, and you're getting with your little groups here, or your chats, and you're doing gossiping about other people. Did you see them doing a thing? And what, they're losers, and he's a dickhead, and then gossiping negatively about people behind their back is reverse manifestation. I guarantee you will be manifesting the opposite of what is a soul-guided desire. And you're attracting in drama and chaos and judgment and more negativity into your life by gossiping. And so reverse manifestation is gossiping with friends. Okay, then you load up TikTok and you go on a doom scroll. And whatever is your algorithm, that's what's showing up. And then maybe something positive shows up or inspiring, and it gives you a glimpse of possibility. And then you go on 5 more minutes of like, oh, that'd be great. And you're manifesting again. And so what is happening for a lot of people, for sure, is that out of 1,440 minutes every day, about 10 minutes a day is actually thinking about what they want. And the other 1,430 minutes is mostly thinking about what they don't want or keeping them pegged where they are. And they go round and round and round all their life, and they don't go no place. Because what they are constantly stewing on and embedded in is what they keep manifesting, more of the same. And so the takeaway here is that most people actually are spending most of their day actively manifesting what they don't want. Now, some of them will counter and will say, well, fine then, Lewis, what I'll do is I'll just start thinking a little bit more about what I want then. So let's play a game. Let's hear how good you are at doing that, shall we? Some of you know this game, so if you do, don't give away the secret sauce. But we're going to play a game real quick. Now, for this game, no pens, no phones, and no computers or no calculators are allowed. And so put everything down, and we're going to play a quick game. Question 1. What is 100 plus 100 go? You don't have to actually type it. You can just do it in your head. Does everyone know the answer to it? I hope. Question 2. Who's ready? 197 plus 846 go. Did everyone come up with an answer for both? Okay. And so my question is I don't really care about what the answer is. I want to know which one did you answer faster? Was it question 1 or question 2? For 100% of you, it's going to be question 1. And so this is important. Follow along. The neurological reasons of why 100 plus 100 is faster and easier is because guess what? You're just doing retrieval and you're not doing any computation in your brain. When I ask you what is 100 plus 100, you don't have to think. You don't have to compute it. You just know it's 200. It's at the forefront of your brain. So no mental computation is required to pull that answer of 200. You don't think about it, you just know the answer. Your brain has already myelinated that pathway. You've already done that a million times in your head. You just know, okay? Which means that there's no cognitive load. It requires no energy. It requires no glucose usage to pop that answer. You're not doing any problem solving. Now, what happens is when you're doing automatic recall like this, it frees up bandwidth for more thinking. So as soon as you answered that question, you were ready, waiting for the next one or waiting for what I was going to say or what was going to be the catch here or the trick to the trick question. You already had it. But when I asked you the more complex question, it took seconds and seconds and seconds to compute the answer. And you're using energy in the brain. It didn't come very clearly. Now, also what happened is that the first question, it also felt more rewarding. You had a bit of a dopamine release. Oh, that's an easy question. I got that right and I was fast and I feel smart. It feels good. And so for these reasons, just taking a two sums like that, which are actually the same, it's a 3-digit number plus a 3-digit number. In both cases, it's the same exact thing. One of them was at the front of your mind and one of them required you to think deeply. Now, there is a third question. Who's ready? Question 3. What would you love your life to look like in 5 years from now? Go. Second part of the question. In every area, health, wealth, knowledge, business, family, social leadership, lifestyle, and spirituality. How would you love your life to look like in 5 years in every area? Is the answer to those questions at the front of your brain, like what 100 plus 100 is? Have you already myelinated the pathway so that the answer to that question and the vision and the little videos that you're playing are front of mind? You don't have to think. You don't have to compute in your brain. It just, you know it instantly. Because if it's not, then guess what? When you're thinking about your future and you're doing a spontaneous daily manifestation resonation, it's not there. And you're not going to use more glucose, more energy to think about that and compute that all day because you haven't taken the time to do it. And what's going to happen, what's going to come up to the front of mind is just what everyone else is thinking or doing or saying. It's just what is the status quo for you. And so the big breakthrough in life, that's why the part 2 of this series is called Level Up in Life. The big breakthrough that you're going to have is getting very, very, very clear on what you want in every area of your life and write a book on every area answering 600 questions of what you want. What is the true soul-guided desires, the pure desires. This is why we Grandmaster plan our lives. It is very, very powerful to do this. And so that's why we have this program. That's why I hope you're part of it. This is why we do GMP. We take it very, very seriously. This is some of our photos. This is the baby stuff I talked about before. Robin, this little black Lamborghini car here, we did this years ago. And we found, when we had the kid, we found the exact same car. And we got it. And now that's Lex's favorite toy. All of this is exactly what Robin put out. And all of this is coming exactly true. The little beach scenes, the morning scenes here. It's unbelievable. Our holidays, we have a page for our fitness and our health area of life. We want to put a visual on that, what that looks like. And today, this is what Robin does. She does a Pelotons and a treadmill and her biking with a beautiful view. The other day, I went up there and it was a thunderstorm coming from the west out here over the mountains. It was beautiful and lightning, like lightning. Every few seconds, lightning. And she's there running and watching lightning storm. It's beautiful. It's unbelievable. So your Grandmaster Plan, which if you're watching this, you should have access to it. It's a journal. It's a logbook. It's a vision board. You saw some of ours there. It's what it is. It's a forced meditation process. It's because the manifestation meditation I just gave you then, when you do this process, you can't help but be doing that the whole time. You're going to do it 600 times. And in the process of doing that, you're going to strengthen that masculine higher mind of yours. And it's going to become more erect. And by the end of this make a habit of this every year, is that you're going to have more of an erect projecting ability onto the universe. Good. This is your personal operating system. This acts as your North Star. It's a beautiful coffee table decoration, by the way. You flick through it every morning. And it gives you, by the way, permission to think and dream big and look within and go within and drown out the other voices on the outside. The truth is, when the voice and the vision on the inside becomes louder and clearer than all the other voices on the outside, you begin to master your life. That's the big breakthrough that most people are going to have. And then one day, by the way, it's going to become very, very inspiring to go and reread the old years. And it's amazing. This, my friends, is how you write your future. This is the Grandmaster Plan. Now, what I'm going to do is load it up. So let me know, have you guys logged in yet and have you checked out the platform? I'm going to show you very, very quickly some stuff. I'll show you more over the next few weeks as well. But let's have a little look. This is what it looks like when you log in. So you can have your photo here and your name. Obviously, you should already have that in. Over here on the left is you have the year. And so if you go to your 2026 year, which is the latest one, just make sure you're on the right year. As you keep doing this every year, you have all the years. So you can go back and look at your old GMPs. And so what I would do is I'd hit start here. But let's jump forward to business, because I think a lot of you will probably be inspired by the business, and we'll go through. This is how it works. And so this is the whole business area of life. And so up the top here, you can see branding, customer, marketing questions, your sales, your core team, your advisory board, your longevity in the business, customer service, finance. Can you guys see this? The mindset required in the businesses. It's going to give you tips along the way. But there's 118 questions in business alone. So what people I think don't understand also is when they join GMP is like, if you actually do it all, you will have a whole business plan emerge from this that will be an inspired business plan. And remember, this is questions that are very specifically curated to make you and force you go within and pop really inspiring answers, true answers, pure answers. We're not telling you, hey, do this business and do this. It's not a business in a box. This is the anti-course. This is you creating the results. You're creating the answers. And so these are all the areas. And just in the business section, by the way, you build a whole bloody business from doing GMP. And so we have little tips along the way. Okay. And so what you do is you can just hit the tick and you move through. And so you move across the bar like this. And so you're on 01 now. That's the first question in the business area. And so it says, John, because this is a John's account. This is just a test account for the video. John, how would you define business or career success? And now this is the beautiful thing. I want to show you something. You can either free ball an answer here, but what you need to do is go within. Now, how would I actually define business or career success? Don't look at what the definition is. You're not asking. Someone asked me, can I use ChatGPT to come up with my answers? And I said, no, that defeats the purpose of what we're trying to do here. Again, people are trying to mentally offload this to other people or to AI. This is not fucking for AI. This is not about answering the correct things and getting it right or getting a tick on the oh, you did your GMP, tick, you got an A. That's not what this is. This is a gym exercise. This is a workout of the higher mind. This is forcing you to go in. How do I actually define career and business success? And guess what? There's 8 billion different answers that are all right. Everyone's got a different idea. In my case, what I would define as a business or career success is probably to be doing a business that I absolutely love, that I feel destined and called to fulfilling and serving people, a vast number of people all around the world, doing my teachings and educating and helping people master their lives. That's what my ideal business is. And by the way, I'd like to get paid gorgeously. I would love to get paid a fortune. Whether I show up at work or not, whether I'm doing a boozy lunch, I want to get paid. And so by coming up, that's my answer. That's not everyone's answer. Some people are fucking into doing being a doctor and doing surgeries and shit like this. Fuck that. I mean, we need them, but fuck that. That's why I said there's 8 billion different answers to these questions. Now, let me show you something beautiful. Down the bottom here is this comes in very relevant if you start now doing this every year. This is what we do. It says here, here's what you said in 2025 and 2024 and 2023. And so what it's doing is it's reminding you of your old answers to this question. Now, the beautiful thing is I can go on my keyboard here, and I recommend that you guys do this on a computer. I hit Shift up arrow, and what happens is it populates the cell with your answer from last year. Now, what you can do then is just scan it, you read it, and okay, so in this case, last year I said, I want to launch my online business and I want to quit my job. And maybe you've achieved that. And so what you do is I need to change it this year. I need to raise the bar. Or maybe, you know what? It's actually perfect. That's still my goal for this year. And then what you do is it'll auto save, but then you can either click this arrow with your mouse, or like what I like to do is I like to hit Shift Enter. So if I hit Shift Enter, boom, question 1 is answered. Then we get question 2. In the next year, what are you dedicated to achieving in the area of your business, career, job, or vocation? Okay. And now last year, I can hit Shift up arrow, and it shows me what I said last year. Some of these stuff, get my first 100 paying customers. Maybe I've already done that. So get to 2,000 paying subscribers. Maybe that's my new answer for this year. And so every year you do it, you're just polishing, tweaking. Then I'm going to hit Shift Enter. Boom. You see? It's a beautiful thing. It's fun. It feels great doing a GMP. Shift up arrow. Okay, here's what I said last year. By definition, by your definition, who are the 5 most successful career individuals you know about in this area? And then you write them down. And yeah, they're still the same. Shift Enter. Boom, we're up to question 3. Now, every time you answer a question, introduction, it all lights up. Question 1, 2, 3, it all lights up blue, meaning you've done it. And now we're on to question 4. You guys clear? Now, as you're going through, shift up. Oh, yeah. What are 5 or 10 decisions that they've made? Blah, blah, blah. Maybe I like these. Now, as you're going through, I guarantee that something will come to mind, probably about 50 or 100 things through this process. And you'll be like, oh, I really need to be reminded to do that. And so that you don't have to go off the platform, what you can do is hit Control A. If you hit Control A on your keyboard up here, what will happen is a to-do list, or you can click this little beautiful plus arrow here. And you can say, get a Circle account or something for my subscriptions. And so that means that what that does is it allows you to keep answering your questions, Shift Enter, we go on to the next question, but it will keep a to-do list here so that at the end of it, so that you can keep the momentum high. So at the end of your session, you have a little to-do list that you can either print out or go and do or go and act on, and then you can either change the priority of it, edit the thing, or just delete the thing once you've done it. Or give it a little tick is what you can do. But that's it. I mean, and you just go through, you're doing Shift Up. Do they have, books, courses, masterminds, or mentorships is one of the questions. And by the way, this first section, the introduction of pretty well every area, starts the same. And so every question in GMP in the software has been very carefully curated to do a number of things. And we're going to go into more of those mechanics in the next session. But they're very carefully handpicked by me to do a couple of things. One, it's the type of questions that has you look into the past. Because part of doing a master plan for your future is to look into the past and extract all the lessons, and so and measure what has worked and what hasn't worked. But some of the questions are actually rearward facing. We look back into the past, we pull out the lessons. Some of the questions is what's working right now and where are you at right now? What's your net worth right now? What's your income right now? Where are you at? They're present-based questions, and some questions are future-based. In the future, how do you want this to look? And so in the process of answering all these questions, we're doing past, we're doing present, we're doing future, we're covering the full spectrum of time, we're looking at experts in every field and pulling the nuggets and the gems from them without injecting their values completely. And the questions are designed to be comprehensive in every area, and at the end of it, you will have a erect high mind. Your masculine aspect of the high mind is going to have a six-pack, and it's going to be erect. Part 2. Level up your life. Today, we're talking about how to level up in life. And by the way, there are levels in life. Not everyone wants to hear that, and not everyone likes it when you say that. But there are levels in life. There's the masters of life, the masses in life, and the losers in life at rock bottom. And by the way, there are way more quantity of losers and masses than there are masters. There are very few number of people as a percentage of the human population who wake up every morning and they have a life that they love. They have a life that they have very deliberately designed, and they feel good, they look good, they have vitality, they have vigor, they have money in the bank, they have a business that they love doing, serving vast numbers of people around the world, helping and making a difference and making an impact and making beautiful, gorgeous income, more than they could ever spend. And they're investing wisely. They've got passive income coming in. They have a family and a relationship that they love. Very few people have all of this. And they have some sort of a social influence. They have the ability to get out there, share a message, and influence people to take action, to get what they want in life. And very few people have what they believe or they feel as if it's their spiritual calling, a purpose in life. And there are people who have this one or that one. You know, you got the big fucking meathead here with the big arms and a six-pack, but he's dumb fuck. Life has fallen apart, doing cocaine on the weekends and poor. That's common, and vice versa. Very rare that people have it all. And it's hard to have it all. If it were easy, everyone would be doing it. But because of entropy, because of the tending toward chaos in our minds, and therefore what we manifest, most people descend down the scale. Most people end up in mass consciousness. Most people end up in the middle class, if not even worse, rock bottom, losers. So this is why writing a plan for every area of your life is very, very important. Now, bringing it over from last week, the scale of consciousness, just understand that the masters of their life, the fortunate people in life, are more soul-guided. They are living by their soul, the true, pure desires. The soul-guided desires, I call it. This is their angelic nature. When you look up the origin of the word angel, it means messenger of light, is what angel actually means. When you are soul-guided, you have a little light inside. You have a little something that lights you up. I call it the purpose. I call it the mission, and it's your message for the world. To the degree that you have the courage and the confidence and the erectness and the life force and the vigor to share your message with the world, you become an angel. You become angelic in nature, and which is a messenger of your light. And that's what people are doing who are masters of their life. They have found their thing. They have clarified it, confirmed it, become inspired by it, and then they share that with the world. And when you do that, by the way, things have a funny way of manifesting very fluidly, very beautifully. You have a symphony of a life, not a cacophony. Down, as we go down the scale now we get to, higher-minded rules. Good. Now we keep going down. Now the lower mind's taking rule. And by the way, the majority of people are run by their lower mind. And the lower mind is the receiving mind, the womb, that is sometimes at this level a bit slutty. And you are open to all of the injections and the ideas of other people. And they're becoming the authors of your life. And as we keep going further down, the body rules down here. And you're living for the body. This is your animal nature. By the way, every human being has both. We have both animal nature and angelic nature. What determines where you're playing on this scale is where you are living predominantly out of, where you are making the choices of your life predominantly out of. If you're soul-guided, you'll move up the scale vigorously. If you're body-guided, you move down the scale. Body-guided meaning what you're concerned with is feeding and fucking. And who knows one? You probably know some animals in your life. They're humans, but bloody hell, fucking just on the border. You know, the animalistic shit, the things that they're into. And all they can see is like one day ahead, and it's like feed, fuck, pleasure, shelter, and that's all they can sort of fathom in their brain. Their body is ruling the show. And so when I'm saying level up in life, this is what I'm talking about. Now, right in the middle is what I call the permission line. Permission meaning you've given yourself permission to live your own life. You're no longer listening to the voices on the outside who are becoming the authorities of your life. You're going to transcend them now, not have idols in your life, like what the Bible tried to warn against. And you're going to live your own life. And you've given yourself permission to do what you'd love to do. And most people don't have that. So permission, and then once you get beyond that, and then you start to accelerate upwards. If you stay below that, you start to accelerate downwards, or you tend toward chaos. Chaos and entropy is downward. Order and organization is upward on this scale. If we let things go, and we just go by the whims and the wishy-washy of you go along with life, you will tend toward chaos. And that's why it's important, again, to bring order and organization to the mind. So let's say on the X here, you're starting life around about here. I started life around about there. Probably most people. I mean, on average, it's a bell curve around the middle. The majority of us probably watching this started life around about there. You guys understand that if you start life higher up and you're having parents who are more soul-guided, more of masters of their own life, you're going to be bred with that in you. Oh, you're going to be learning, I guess, the habits of what they do differently and the way they look at the world differently, and you have a higher probability of staying up there. If you're starting down and you were raised by a pack of fucking animals in the jungle, it's going to be pretty hard to become angelic in nature and become a master of every area of your life in the modern world. And so let's say that you're starting here. The question is, and what I've always been fascinated with, is how do we get up the scale? How do we progress? In David Hawkins' book called Power vs. Force, which I mentioned last week, he has a beautiful thing. It's a very similar model to this. He calls his the scale of consciousness. And he gives them specifically a score, the different levels on a logarithmic scale. And I forget his score. I think it's like 204 or something, 206 or thereabouts. Around about the 200s, he calls this permission line. This is where the majority of people are pegged at. And so many different philosophers and thought leaders have a different way of describing this phenomenon. This is mine. So the question is how do we level up in life? That's the question. And there's a couple of answers to that. I'm going to give you a pretty good one right now. And one that is very practical. One that is something that you can begin immediately today. You make 35,000 decisions every single day. And when I say this, people are like, that seems like a lot. 35,000? Nah. Well, let's have a look. 6 a.m., you're in bed, alarm goes off. You roll over. Let's have a look at how many decisions you've got to make. First, the alarm's going off, and you're like, oh, should I reach over and turn it off? Or should I wait another 5 seconds? Or should I wait another 30 seconds? That's a decision that you have to make, and it's a question that you've asked yourself. Okay, and now I've decided I'm going to reach over and grab the alarm. Should I use my left hand or my right hand? Should I weight my body this way or this way? Roll that way or that way? Straighten my legs or not? Stretch or not? Yawn or not? And then do I get the phone? Do I turn the clock off, the phone off? Do I get the phone? Do I use my left or right hand to take the charger out of the phone? Do I use my face or a swipe up to unlock the phone? Then what's the first app should I click? Instagram, calendar. What am I going to click first is a decision. Should I roll over and kiss Robbie in the morning? Should I say, hello, how are you, darling? And then where is my eyes going to look around the room? Do my eyes get caught toward the light that's peeking through the curtain there? And do I try to look through that? And do I decide on what the weather's going to be based on how much light's peeking through the curtain? And then when I'm actually going to get out of bed, what do? Do I sit up? Do I use my arms to add momentum to the upward journey? Do I left foot, right foot? What am I doing? You make 50 decisions before you get out of bed, you guys understand? So you can understand in that those first few seconds of the day, there's 50 decisions to be made. And so you can understand as you go through the day, 35,000 decisions a day is what they estimate. Micro decisions. Now, every decision begins with a question. If you go back, all of these start with a question. What you're doing actually every day in order to make a decision in life is that you have to ask a question. Every decision is preceded by a question. And because the decision, decide means to kill off options. Side means death, suicide, homicide, etc. When we decide on something, what we're doing is we're bringing up the options in our mind and we're killing off all the options, we're making a decision. In order to do that, we have to ask a question. These are internal micro questions. So in other words, every day you're asking yourself questions. Tens of thousands of questions. Now, your internal questions that you're asking yourself tens of thousands of times a day are your life's operating system. The type of questions that you have habitually come to ask yourself in order to inform these decisions that you're making every few seconds is the operating system of your life. And it is so important to understand that. It is the difference between a mass consciousness life where you're a struggler and a battler and a middle class versus you're mastering now every area of your life. It's the questions that you're asking yourself. It's so important that I pretty much give it a binary. Low quality questions, low quality life. High quality questions, high quality life. That's one of the simplest things that you can practice and have control over is changing the quality of questions that you're asking yourself. I'll give you an example. Low quality questions is shit like this. And I've coded this yellow. Remember, yellow means the masses. This is what the normal peeps do. Why is this happening to me is what people will say. Why is this happening to me? When you turn it inwards and say, what is this trying to teach me? The answer that you come up with to that is actually going to give you a valuable framework that you can use in the future and take your life to the next level. It's a higher quality question. Who's to blame for this is a silly question. Rather, what you want to ask is, what's the smartest way forward? I'm in this situation. What's the best move on the table? What's the smartest next step? Same situation, same scenario. You might even feel the same way about it. Different question will lead to a different outcome. Okay. Instead of asking what product should I sell, by the way, when you go and sell something in the marketplace and package a product, which I assume some of you will be doing, it's like what the product you sell has really nothing to do with you. It's completely got to do with the market. What does the market crave? That's where you want to start. If you keep looking within, you're having a narcissism in your business and you're projecting onto the market what you think it needs rather than actually first asking, what does the market crave right now? And then filling that need. That's the way you want to begin to make the most money. Where do I find a good partner? People really think this. People in a relationship area of life ask me, it's like, where should I go to find a good partner? It's like, where you go has very little to do with it. I mean, there's something in it, but I mean, who's to say when you show up somewhere, if I give you the time and place of the perfect partner, you think you're going to just rock up there, knock on the door and say, hello, I'm here. They're going to probably tell you to fuck off. And so that's a really not the wise question. Again, what you're doing is you're saying, it's out of my control. There's some place and some time that I need to be at, somewhere out there that I need to show up and be there at the right time to find a good partner. People ask this. Rather than, who do I need to become to be the best partner and magnetize them in, to pull them in my direction in the universe, to ripple the universe such that they vibrated on toward me through the physical plane. Here they are. And at that time, by the way, you just happen to be the best person for them. And it's an internal, you want to look within, you want to have an accountability. And so you guys can understand kind of when I share a list like this, you can see, low quality, high quality. If you got into the habit of asking high quality questions over time and distance 35,000 times a day, you have a different life, vastly different life. Good? Now, this is where this becomes even more important. Guess what happens? When you get into the habit of asking low quality questions, and that is your operating system for life, just asking these really disempowering questions and running your life like that, then what happens is something very interesting. Eventually, your brain learns that, you know what, keep asking these questions. I got to think. It uses glucose, uses a lot of fucking cognitive load. And every time I ask these questions, I get shit answers and I'm not gaining a competitive advantage. And your brain knows this. And so what happens is eventually is you stop asking the questions because it's not advantageous anymore. And people who consistently go through life asking shit questions that don't yield a return or an advantage, guess what their brain does? It stops asking the questions and replaces them instead with stubborn statements. And this is when you now go into the red zone. This isn't when you now get people they're fucking down and out in life. They're the rock bottom dwellers. They're really they got no hope. And so what they do then is they don't even ask questions. They wrap it up with a statement because it uses less glucose in the brain to come up with a statement. So when something's happening, why is this happening to me? At least you have a little bit of curiosity in that. Stubborn statements is when people start now saying, like, nothing ever goes my way. They don't even ask a question. They're like, nothing ever goes my way. That's just it. Stamped, done. Okay? Who's to blame is like other people keep screwing me over. Who knows one like this, by the way? An animal. They're living animalistic lives. Fucking victims. Other people keep screwing me over is what they say. Everything's saturated and I don't have anything. Some people come into our School of Mastery when we do product class. We show them how to put together a product. And sometimes they're just in this default of like, everything's saturated. I couldn't possibly compete. I don't have anything to sell. It's like, oh, well, if you say so, you know. And then where do I find a good partner? Is that there are no good partners out there. You know, some people are so jaded on having bad relationship experiences and they have so much pain on it that they will just say that all men are X, Y, and Z. All women are X, Y, and Z. And there's no good partners out there. Everyone's a dickhead. You guys ever know someone who's like this, who is just so stubborn and set in their ways? And what's happening is their brain is crusting over and there's no flexibility in there. There's no wiggle room. And to get them out of that is it's getting difficult. They're killing off their purpose. They're killing off their soul-guided desire and they're locking themselves into a very troubled life, a struggling fucking life. What's happening here, and this is maybe one of the biggest secrets of personal development, your brain will switch from questions to statements the moment it decides that the extra cognitive energy spent on open-ended inquiry won't produce a worthwhile payoff. Or in other words, if you keep asking low-quality questions, you'll keep getting low-quality answers, and it will self-perpetuate a low-quality life. Your brain will just eventually learn, it's like, you know what, it's just not worth fucking asking anymore. I'm just going to lock in a statement. And that way I can just label things. Label. Generalize, label. It's easier. You get to turn your brain off, and you get to have really deep down a little sense of comfort. It's like, oh yeah, I got a handle on things. I know how things work. Scam, slut, here's a dickhead, all men are fuckwits. These generalizations, everything's saturated. Here's what people do. They generalize and just put a blanket statement on it. I have a name for it. It's called gravy brain. It's their brain has turned to gravy. And it's like, oh, they're just like mushy fuckers. They're not crisp. Their brain is not firing anymore. They're not using the brain. And so, masters, losers, masses. You guys understand? The masters become masters is because the internal operating system that they are using 30, 40,000 times a day is running on high quality questions. It's the high quality micro questions that they're asking themselves all day, which are leading to high quality micro outcomes, compounded over days, weeks, months, and years, that you will change your life. And it's one of the simplest ways that you can level up your life. And so high quality questions means that it's coming from a state of curiosity. You're open-minded. You are slanted toward optimism. It's because you can be optimistic and you can be pessimistic, or you could be very, very realistic. But if anything, I think there's some wisdom in slanting upwards, lean into optimism. I create my life because you can always move up the scale. There's always another level up, okay? And it's generally the way that we want to move. I create my life, and there's a hyper accountability when you have a mastery over your life. If it is to be, it's up to me, is what people think who have a grip on their life, who have empowered their lives. It's all me. It's no blame, nothing on the outside. It's all internal, and you're looking within. All of the questions are structured such that you can look within and make a change and get an edge, get a competitive advantage. And there's an order and an organization. We are looking to create order and organization. As we go down the scale now, we go into low quality questions, and this is the risk zone. This is now where we've got a bit of skepticism. We're a bit jaded. We're a bit skeptical. We're closed off. We err on pessimism slightly, and we're into blame. Because hyper accountability doesn't feel nice. We want to blame this person, my parents were cocksuckers, and my ex and my boss and the government. People are into blaming the government. And people here in Australia are victims of Woolworths and Coles. They price gouge me, and the government this. And you go down. What they do is they go down into they get in their little mass cults with little picket fence signs, and they try and riot. Like very disempowered shit. It's not going to change your life at all. Now it can get worse, is because, like I said, if you get into the habit of asking the low quality questions over time and distance, your brain learns that actually, you know what, you're not getting a competitive advantage. I'm just going to go into now stubborn statements. I'm just going to blanket everything and label it. And then you're at like the level of like, it is how it is. The universe is fixed. Nothing is changeable. Nothing is malleable. I'm just the victim of everything that's happened. I've got no creative power or say over what happens in my life, and it's bloody well not my fault. It's other people's fault. You're descending into chaos. And so we have up the scale is order and organization, and down the scale is chaos. You get overtaken by entropy. To the degree that you can bring order and organization to your life and to your mind, you move up the scale. Good? Everyone clear on that? Finch says, motherfuckers complaining about property prices. Yeah, property prices. So look, if you're here on the X, if you're at X marks the spot, the question is how do we get up? How do we get up the scale? And so I'm going to give you some questions. I said that the questions that you're asking yourself internally 30, 40,000 times a day, it becomes the operating system of your life. It's the question that leads to the decision that you're making, and these take your life in a completely different direction. 4 types that I want to discuss today. 4 types of questions to level up your life. And what I'm going to do specifically is I'm going to give you some real examples of actual questions that are in your GMP process. And so let me know in the chat, everyone here has a GMP account now. They've logged in and you've started your process here of doing your GMP. Let me know. Good. I'm going to give you some real questions from it. I'm going to pick some so that I can explain the types of questions that we ask. Okay, so the first type of question that you want to ask is past. You want to go into your past and you want to reflect and you want to extract all of the lessons out. This is a very important part of goal setting, master planning, and learning from the past. If you're not learning from the past, you are a silly chook. Maybe you have a bit of gravy brain disorder. Question number 96 in the wealth area of life. Have you ever lost an unexpected amount of money in schemes, scams, gimmicks, get-rich-quick systems, poor investments, hot tips, broker suggestions, gurus' advice, friends' advice, trade alerts, punting, gambling, casinos or slot machines, etc.? My previous business was in financial education, and we saw 10,000 people try to learn how to invest and build wealth. And we learned a lot about investment psychology. And many people were coming in with complete gamblers. And by the way, the lower down the scale you go, the more into the middle, deeper down into the middle class and rock bottom you go, the higher the probability that you're not doing delayed gratification, the higher probability that you're addicted to dopamine, gambling, and get rich quick gimmicks. And you're naive and you can be malleable or gullible, maybe is the better word, into ridiculous things, schemes and shit. And so if you are that way inclined, you best be aware of that. You best be looking into the past. Like, do I have a propensity to get into these gimmicks? If so, you should be using that to inform your future decisions. You should be using that to be like, well, I need to be very, very cautious because I have this inkling to lose my money doing dumb shit. People lose their money doing some dumb fucking shit. I swear to God. Oh my God. Some of the things we've heard. And so the follow-up question is what are the lessons you learned from it? How do you plan on avoiding similar mistakes in the future? And remember Warren Buffett's rule number 1, never lose money. And also the rule number 2 is, go back to rule number 1, never lose money. So this is an example in GMP of a past question. We look in the past, we're extracting it forward, and we're reflecting on the things from our past to get every area of life sharp, crisp. Question 9 in health is an example. Which of the foods and drinks make you feel great and perform best? And what's your plan to consume more of these? You guys realize that, you look on, if you're into health and nutrition and shit, there's all kind of people with all different weird philosophies and all over the spectrum and all over the polarities. There's full carnivore is big, full vegan and raw is big. They're opposites. And everything in between. There's the keto and the lemon and all the fucking this and that. Everyone's got a different opinion. And if you looked at everyone's opinion in the whole of the universe through all of time and you put it in a blender, guess what? You'd probably land somewhere in the middle. Moderate diet, but people get into, again, remember what I said in the first class, people are living by Freud's superego, the injected ideas of other people. And they don't even take the time to ask. No, people haven't done this. What actually foods and drinks make you feel good and perform best, and write a list? Because you just go into your own head and you get objective stuff and no one's going to beat that list. No one's opinion is going to beat that. In our case, when I did this, we realized that I don't like, Robin and I both, we don't like eating dinner. I don't know how people eat dinner. We have a very light snack at like 5 p.m. and then we're in bed by 8:30 and no dinner. If we have a big dinner at 6 or 7 or drink alcohol at 9 or have big dinner, it's like, I don't know how people sleep. I don't know if people, maybe that's just me. But again, this is the value of doing a process like this, is because you get tailored advice and you just look in your past. People don't actually just take notice of what's happened in the past and what works and what doesn't work. It's a very simple but life-changing process and habit to get into. 2, second type of question is present questions. And so what we're doing here is we're measuring. We're actually taking a good hard look. So question 9 in wealth, for example, is what's your current net worth? Have a look. Total assets minus total liabilities. What is the net worth? It's unbelievable how many people say that they want to make money, build wealth, and they don't know where they are. It's like they don't know where they are, they don't know where they're going, and they have no idea how they're going to get there. It's like, what do you think the probability is that they're going to increase their net worth? Very low. What is your net worth? And so that's an example of a measuring question. You're just taking a look, and that meant logging into bank accounts, brokerage accounts, getting an evaluation on the properties that you have. Have a look at the net worth. You should be logging this with a personal wealth map, by the way. If you don't have that, you should be in School of Mastery doing that. Okay, but we're measuring. We're taking a measurement. Here's an interesting one in the social area of life: is who are your 5 closest friends? Have you written that down? Who are my 5 closest friends? And really thought that through. You can include partners and family friends. Who are the 5 closest? And then a follow-up question to that is, what value do they each bring into your life? And then the flip of that is, because we always keep our questions balanced, what value do you bring to each of their lives? And is there a balance here? Is there a fair exchange in the friendship? Over in School of Mastery this year, I mentioned last night in our huddle that one of the big takeaways from the year is people are traipsing through old friendships that are no longer serving them. And deep down, they know it. And they have friends who are jealous. They have friends who are naysayers and negative toward their goals. Or they don't believe in them, or they throwing a bit of shade in their way, and all this is, it's playing on their mind, and they're feeling a bit down about it. They're feeling like they have to call them and defend themselves and explain themselves. I'm like, this is fucking drama. You need to ditch them. They're not bringing value to your life. And that's a very simple process. Actually taking a good look at what's my social life look like right now, and what's the value transfer? What am I getting from this? There's a beautiful thing in nature. Nature abhors a vacuum. And so if you have friends who are no longer serving you, which we see a lot, and you either immediately or gradually start drifting away and moving away, and you open up a void in your friendship, the universe has an amazing way of filling that void. Particularly now, if you open up a void and you start getting clear through a GMP process of what are the kind of social connections that you'd love to have. What would be inspiring to you? Who would you love to hang around? What kind of people? Write them out. And a beautiful thing happens. You open up the void, you create a vacuum, universe fills it, and it's going to fill it with whatever you're resonating on. And you resonate on it to the degree that you get clear and you get inspired by doing a GMP process. It's a beautiful thing. Robin and I did this exact thing back when we must have been maybe 2016, 2017. We're living in Brisbane. And we were going through this. We were having that moment where we were having to separate ourselves from friends to go to the next level. And our friends at the time were into some weird things and bringing drama into our life, using us for this and that. And we weren't feeling as if we were getting a fair exchange from the friendship. And we both agreed, you know what? Let's move away. Let's stop picking up the phone call and let's move away, start doing our thing. At the same time, what we did is we did this process right here. It's actually one of the next questions in social. It's like, who would you love to hang around? Who would you love to have in a friendship? What would be your ideal friendship? And we said, because we're together all the time, we said a couple, older, more successful financially. And we wrote down a big list of traits. And guess who the fuck shows up in our life within weeks of doing this exact process? It was our friend called the Pajama Bosses, Marsha and Miguel. They lived in the next building and we ran into them in the car park. We connected and we created a beautiful friendship, and we're friends to this day. They live in Spain now. But there's a beautiful thing when you take the time to just do your GMP. And this doesn't require anything special. It just requires you to take the time to go in and measure. How's your social life looking right now? How's it all going? And if you don't like it, what would you love to fill it with? Yeah, I think the thing that I love about GMP the most is like when you do it, first, right now, if you've never done it, you're kind of having to use a little bit of faith to believe in what I'm telling you. But when you go and do it and then you start to see weird shit start happening, you will be like, fuck, I see. I've seen the light. I see it. And your life will never be the same. So have a little faith at the beginning. Go and do it though, so then you don't have to have faith. Number 3, future questions. And so what we're doing, the best type of questions, we go past, bring the lesson forward, present, we have a measure, an evaluation, and then future. This is where we get inspired. We look into the future and we get inspired about what we would love to create. And so an example would be question 15 from social is, what are the private, exclusive, or invitation-only events that you'd love to be included in for the first time, and how do you plan on getting invited? And have a think about that. This is something I did. I've always been into cars and Formula One, and when I was young, I went to the Formula One in Melbourne twice with my dad, 2001, 2003. And we had such a nice time. I was a kid at the time, but we sat in the Moss stand, which is on the main straight there, and we looked across the pit lane into, this is at Albert Park, we looked across into all of the suites, or where all the rich people were. And I looked over and said, how do people get there? Like, that would be so cool. And Dad was like, you got to be really rich to get there. I said, that's a fucking goal, man. I'm inspired by that. And so, and we did. But how are we going to get there? And how do we plan on getting invited? And we did whatever it took to get there. And we've been 4 times now over there. And I've drinking champagne out of shoes and eaten caviar and had an absolute hullabaloo. All of you are going to have something like that. Think about it. What are the events that you'd love to attend? Maybe it's a Monaco Grand Prix or a Wimbledon, or a certain concert or something. Get clear on what that is and write it down. Set the goal. Question 19 in wealth, for example, a future inspiring question is, if money were no limiting factor, and I want you to remember that prefix to this question, if money were no limiting factor, how many houses, homes, mansions, ranches, estates, condos, apartments, or penthouses would you love to have? Is it one? Is it none? Some people are into having none. Is it one? Is it two? Is it three? What is it? Briefly describe them. Good? Get clear. Fourth type of questions, prioritizing questions. Lists and rankings. This is one of the most powerful things that any human with a pen and a pad can do. And you just go into your brain and you write lists and rankings. And if you do this, and this GMP is going to cue you on which ones to do, it's incredibly powerful. I'll give an example. Question 10 in wisdom is, what are the most unique ideas, principles, skills, strategies, or methods that you've learned or developed so far? Write an exhaustive list. Very few people have done this. Write out all of the unique ideas in your brain that represent strategies or skills or methods. Write them all down in every area. And I did this. I did this in 2017 when I did my first GMP. I answered that exact question. And what came out of my brain was all this. And what I did was I wrote down all the areas of life where I had some sort of a unique angle or a unique strategy. And I realized, you know what? I've got all this stuff. I could easily put a price tag on this and sell the fuckers. And I ended up with about 54 different programs and products that I didn't even really have to, it was already in my brain. I just took the time to write it out. I wrote a list and then I added some sort of priority. I added pricing to it. And I'm like, I got a whole curriculum here. And guess what? I even wrote at the end how much money I think I could make, which was $71,000 a month. And I even wrote out the build time collectively was going to be 4.93 years. Well, guess what the fuck happened? I've built pretty much all of these now. I built Master Your Wealth. I built my investment strategy. I built my Inspired Life process. I built Master Your Memory, which is a program that I always wanted to build. I built the purpose process, the fear process, the relationship power couple process. I built it all. And then I packaged it. And guess what? I made more than that, quicker than that. And that's what, when I built my School of Mastery, which is like my bread and butter, by the way, it's like, I didn't do a course or a mentorship really on how to fucking do that. I answered a simple question. Is what are all the things in my brain right now that I could package up and teach? It was just a process, it was a fucking question. In fact, I probably made more money answering my own questions than I have ever made taking other people's courses and shit. I remember I said last week, this is the anti-course. You're deliberately not listening to anyone. You're asking questions that force you in. Good? There's this quote, you guys have seen it. The answers are within you. You guys have seen this? It's like a bit of a bit new age woo-woo. People say, oh, the answers are within you. I always thought that was a bit woo-woo. I think it's true. The more I grow up, the more I think, you know what? I think it is true. I think there is more answers within you than you realize if you would just take the time to ask good questions, get them out. So prioritizing questions, or in other words, lists and rankings. If you just built lists, God, you'd have so much clarity, you'd have so much information. Q3 in wealth is, by your definition, who are the 5 most financially successful individuals you know about? Write down. And by the way, question 3 in every area of GMP starts like this. By your definition of what is success in that area, who are the 5 most successful per your definition? And that's there's 7 areas, 5 people, that's 35 individuals who you're going to be putting at the top of the most empowered people in every area of your life. And then by having them on a list, like, oh, they're the people who I think are the most successful, you go get their books. You go read everything that they've ever put out. You buy their programs if they've got them. That's what you do. That's where you start. As a matter of fact, I think that if you write down your 35 kingpins and you focus on all of their material and content, you go through all of Elon's stuff, all of Warren Buffett's stuff. I think if you're investing, you have no business investing until you've read all of everything that Warren Buffett has his name on. That's a pretty good place to start. But you want to start there before you start spending 3 and 4 hours a day watching podcasts. People do this. You guys understand? People are into podcasts. and particularly they're into these chain mass podcasts where they're trying to pump out 3 episodes a week. It's like these are mostly this is just fluff content. I mean, there's some nuggets in there, but there's no way that you're going to get as much juice out of watching 3 hours of a podcast as you would going to your top 35 kingpins in every area of life and reading all of the material that they spent decades putting together. No way. And this gets back to prioritizing who and where you're learning from, getting the most nutritious, potent information and acting on that with priority. So 4 types of questions to level up in life. The past questions where you look into your history and you reflect the lessons forward that you got out of it. 2, present, you look right now in life and you take a measurement of every area. How fat am I? What's my BMI? How many calories a day am I eating right now? Have a look. Okay. Future questions, you look into the future now and we get inspired and we come up with what we'd love to have. And then 4 is prioritizing, taking lists and ranks strategically and what we're doing is we're literally bringing order and organization to the mind when you do that. Your mind has so much stuff, it's all scattered out. The moment you take the time to write a list and a ranking, you've brought order and organization to that area, and magic comes out of that. I built a whole education empire out of that. So I said before that your internal questions are your life's operating system, and you've really got to train the muscle. You've got to train the muscle of asking better questions, and it takes work. But if you can do that, it will raise the quality of your questions, which you get to act on 35,000 times a day, and your life changes very quick. GMP does that. That's one of the other reasons that we love this program, and that's why we do this, is because GMP is 600 questions and it is like a gym workout. And by the way, it really is a workout. I said before that what's happening is your brain's trying to optimize. It's trying not to use energy where possible. So if your brain starts learning that it keeps asking low quality questions, low quality answers, not getting a competitive advantage, it just turns question asking off and it comes into you start doing statements instead. The flip side of that is that you really have got to dig in and ask questions. And so as you guys know, when you're starting to now answer some of these questions, it feels hard. It feels like work. If you spend an hour doing this and you actually go deep, you will be tired at the end of it. Has anyone experienced that yet? You will be tired at the end of it. Not necessarily your muscles being exhausted, but it uses a considerable amount of energy to really think. And that's why people default to not doing that. They just turn the brain off and go gravy brain and just do what everyone else wants for them. So the North Star for asking good questions, like we talked about a bit before, like the high quality questions is 1, we want to come from open-mindedness. We want to be open to things changing. We want to be open. We want to have an optimistic slant, slightly. We don't want to go into Delulu. We don't want to go into fucking fantasy, like some people are into weird off-the-chart things. You know, I had one kid once, he was 28 years old and said he really wants to be a Formula 1 driver, never driven a go-kart or anything in his life and got no driving skills, no experience and no money. It's like, well, there's 20 people in the world who do that. I don't think that's probably going to happen. You know, that's not going to happen. There's not one example of history and your life has no evidence of any of that even being close to coming true. You know, you're in fantasy. And so I'm not into fantasies. I'm into being grounded. But you can err upwards. You can err toward the optimistic slant. Hyper accountability is the North Star for questions. And so every time something happens is, what was my role in this? And what am I gaining out of this? What's the benefit to me? What can I learn from this? What can I extract from this? And it's always, we turn it back on ourselves and have a hyper accountability. We're objective and rational. We want to be grounded. Want to be real about things. We want to be balanced in our question asking. I gave you an example before of in the social area, it's like, well, let's have a look at my friends. How much value are they bringing to me? But also balance that. How much value am I providing to them? Keep it balanced. There's another one in health, for example. It's like, which part of your body do you hate the most? What do you get the most shame around that you want to cover up, that you don't like this part of your body? And the next question will be, what's the part of your body that you love the most, that you're most proud to show off? And you want to, again, with a good question asking, you want to keep them balanced. Balanced, objective, rational, hyper accountability, optimistic slant, open-mindedness. And the final one is one that we haven't touched on, is without limits. Without limits. Let me explain something really quickly. You have a zone of belief in every area. So if I ask you a question, for example, like how much money would you love to make in the next year? I could ask 2 people that question, worded identically and in the same context. But one person's zone of belief is smaller, because of their current results, because of their past experiences, etc., and because of who they're surrounded with and what they are exposed to in real life. And then the other person might have a much more expanded zone of belief. And so if I ask the same question, guess what? They're going to have completely different answers. And so that's why sometimes for some questions, there is a value in adding a prefix to the questions. And that's what a lot of the questions in GMP will do, if you notice. If you're paying attention, I'm just sort of trying to give you some of the mechanics of behind the scenes of why this works so well and why these questions particularly are curated so specifically. But some questions we put a prefix at the front. And so the prefixes, two that are really popular and that are very effective are, if money was no limiting factor. That's a really important one. Is because so when you go to wealth area, for example, we're gonna ask you some questions of like what are the kind of cars that you want. But if I just ask you, what's your dream car? What car would you love to have? You're going to limit that answer to keep within your zone of belief. And so what we need to do is, if money were no limiting factor, okay. And so you might visualize it's like, okay, so maybe I had $1 million a month coming in, net, clear, after tax, in the pocket, mine, personal income to spend. $1 million a month, what car would I have? And that's a different, you'll come up with a different answer. What I suggest that you do is ask the question twice, one with and without this prefix. And see if you can notice, it's very subtle, but see if you can notice your brain shifts a gear and it's an expansive, it pops open. It's like, oh, well, in that case, I'd boop. Make sense? Start there, do that. And again, you want to feel this blip of opening and expansion, and you come up with different answers. Good. And then the second one is, if you knew you couldn't fail, because so many people will answer a question in their limited context with all of their pains and traumas and failures and stuff that they're traipsing through, filtering over the question and coming up with answers that are confined within that box. And so again, we need to add a prefix. If you knew you couldn't fail, what's the kind of business you'd love to run? And ask that. And it's like, you would not fail. Really ponder on that. What is the business you'd actually love to run every day? So little prefixes for questions, and that allows you to ask a higher quality, more expanded question. So that's it. Summary, if we can discuss what we've talked about. It's really only two things. One, you're going to train the muscle of asking better questions. It's really, really important. And there's 4 types I gave you. Past, present, future, and prioritizing. There are some more when we're talking about clearing baggage and traumas from the past. There are some more types of questions, as a matter of fact. But just in the context of leveling up and getting a GMP out, these are the 4 ones to start with. These are 4 amazing questions. 2, you're simply just going to start working on becoming more open-minded. You're going to err toward optimism. You're going to become more hyper accountable, look within rather than blaming and dissociating and thinking it's all on the outside. You're going to work on becoming more objective, more measured, more rational, more grounded, more balanced. And so if you're asking a negative question, what is a part of my body that I don't like? Also ask, what do I like? If there's a part of your business that you don't like and you're not very good at, what's the part of the business that you do like and that you are very good at? Try to keep questions balanced. And then finally, work on becoming more unlimited. And one way to do that is to do reframing. You add a little prefix at the start of every question. If money was no limiting factor, what would my answer to this be? If I knew I couldn't fail, what would I do? What would I do career-wise? That's a good question to ask. So open-minded, optimistic, hyper-accountable, objective, rational, balanced, and unlimited. And if you just do that, that's how you start leveling up in life, baby. That's what GMP does. GMP is a workout for the mind. This is like a gym exercise for the mind, as I joke about sort of every week. Some people go and spend hours and hours and hours a week at the gym, lifting fucking heavy things off the ground, up and down, up and down, up and down. But they don't necessarily always work on working out the mind. And there's many ways to work out the mind, by the way. So, but some people think that the best way to work out the mind is go to college and get a degree and study a textbook for 4 years and pay $100,000 for the privilege of doing it so that you can get spat out the other end with a piece of paper and a fucking shit income. So people, that's got nothing to do with making money and getting ahead in life. It's got nothing to do with mastering your life, building wealth, anything really. You get a slight edge maybe, but then after costs and time, it's arguable. Really, one of the best ways to do it is not even courses or mentorships. One of the best ways to work out the mind like you would at the gym is to ask a lot of questions and force your brain to come up with high quality answers. And practice getting good at question asking and practice going in within and getting the answer. And it takes work. But you work that muscle out and it becomes strong. And it will change your life. The third installment of the Grandmaster Plan series is called Craft Your Legacy. The last one we talked about the scale of consciousness. And I said that there are levels in life. And I gave you some very specific instructions on how to level up in life. I said that we have the masters, the masses, and the losers, the rock bottom dwellers. And one of the biggest differences between the levels is the quality of questions that they habitually ask themselves. I said in that class last week that you make 35,000 decisions a day, give or take. And by default and extension, you're asking 35,000 questions a day. It's because every single decision that you make is preceded by a question. To decide on something is to kill off other options, and you can only make the decision if you've asked yourself the question. Now, these questions that you're asking yourself habitually every day become the operating system of your life. And people are in habits of asking questions that are lower quality on average and higher quality on average. That compounded 30, 40,000 times a day over time and distance makes a big difference in your life. It creates the class structure that we have. We have victims down the bottom and people who are mastering their life in most areas up the top. I also explain that on this scale here at the top of it, you're more soul guided. It's your angelic nature. Angel meant the messenger of light. You have a message that you feel inspired to share with the world, and it's your own pure desire, and you lay it on the world. At the bottom, you're more body guided. You're an animal running around trying to feed and fuck and carry on like animals. What I didn't talk about in last week was the time horizons. And so on this same chart, down the bottom, we have people who live day to day. You have people who are a little bit more expanded, who are living week to week, then month to month, then year to year, then decade to decade. The time horizon in your thoughts on average is a direct function of how far up or down the scale that you are. Up here, you have 100-year plans, and people who have 100-year plans usually have some sort of mastery over their life. We'll talk about a few tonight. And then at the level of the soul, the top level, which I described before, is your eternal nature, the timeless nature, the immortal self. This is where there is no time, and you go into foreverness. And so you can see, up the scale, down the scale, that also plays a big role. It's what we're going to be talking about tonight. The final frontier in this 3-part series is because guess what? Deep down, we all have a desire for immortality. It's part of the human condition, particularly our angelic nature. Now, most people do it through family. Most people have a biological urge to populate, reproduce, and leave spawn all around the planet. Some people do it through business and have building up big enterprises and organizations, we call it. Remember what I said at the top of the scale here, we have order and organization. Down at the bottom, we have entropy. People who are ordered and organized in their minds end up creating organizations, companies, businesses, often that stand the test of time and outlive them. Some do it through wealth and having a financial reservoir there that lasts beyond their life, and they can then will that on and create estates and create funds and create prizes and have a financial legacy. Some people do it through social causes or spiritual impact. Some do it through knowledge that changes how the world works. And they leave their intellectual property behind, or their patents or their inventions or their knowledge in some way. And by the way, guess what? These are the areas of life. And so you are going to be called to having a legacy, an immortality. You're going to be called to leave something behind at the end of your life. Now, at the first part of this series, I gave you this diagram. Who remembers it? Let me know in the chat. I said that you are a 3-part being made up of soul, mind, and body. And I drew out this diagram here. Now, I want to cast your eyes over toward the right, because who remembers when I said this? I said that all creation and manifestation is a downward movement from this scale. We start with a soul-guided desire up the top, the pure intention. We think about it in our mind. We project those intentions down into the womb of our lower mind, and it grows there. Creation is downward. But I also said, remember, that the spiritual evolution is upward. And so the earthly purpose is both. We're here to do both, because the first class was manifestation. And so if you want to create shit, if you want to build a life in the physical plane, it's a downward movement. So you start with the pure intention and you go downward. If you want to become more spiritually evolved, then it's an upward movement up the scale. What you're doing is you're pulling out of the materialistic. You're pulling out of the needing to have things in the physical plane. You're pulling out of the desires of the body, and you're moving up in this way. Both. You're doing both here is the real purpose, not one or the other. Now, this top dotted line here, just to reiterate, above the line is soul, below the line is mind. This is the line that is the difference between the soul being incarnated now into the mind. This at the downward trend is the alpha point, and this is the omega point. This is birth and this is death. At the moment of birth, we start as a soul and we incarnate down into the physical plane, and we take on the limitations of the physical body so that we can dismember ourselves, because at the level of the soul, nothing's missing and everything is love, unconditional love. Now, when we are born and take the first breath, we incarnate now. We dismember all of our parts, and our journey in life, or our spiritual quest back up the scale, is to remember, which is to put the parts of ourselves back together and remember who we are. And so right at the death point is when we're about to cross back over and all of the lessons of life come through. And so at the omega point here, where I got the red cross, right at that point is a hidden gem of wisdom. And guess what we can do? We can ask questions and take our mind there, and we can ponder on it, and we can extract not necessarily all of the wisdom, but a good chunk of it. And it's a major key, and that's the topic for tonight, because by the end, or not quite the end, but nearing the end of your GMP process, there's a section on spirituality. And there are 14 questions on death. Now, when you come and do this for the first time and you haven't watched this part of the video or the philosophy around it, you might think that we're a bit sick doing 14 questions on death and answering all the questions of how do you want to do the death, what age would you love to live to, how do you want to process it, what do you want the funeral to look like, eulogy writing, etc. But there are a couple of questions that are particularly powerful and that I want you to focus on. It's question 50 in spirituality. If you knew you only had 30 days left to live, what would you do? And I really want you to think about that. Do you have any unsaid words, unfinished business, or unrealized dreams that you'd love to fulfill? You've got 30 days to do it. And I really want you to take it seriously. Go into the mind, like I have been telling you to do. You got to really think it through. AI can't answer this shit for you. Go into your mind and see yourself at the doctor's office. He gives you the bad news. And guess what? 30 days. After that, it's lights out. And he's very confident. You've got 30 days to go. That's the diagnosis. What do you do when you leave the doctor's office? And what is it that you'd be focused on in those 30 days? That's what I want you to answer. And I really want you to take it seriously. Now, the next question is interesting because the next question is the same question, but now you've got 7 days left. And so time is coming to an end. You've got 7 days to left. What are you doing in those last 7 days? Next question. 1 day to go. What would you do? You've got 24 hours left in this life. What do you do? And I really want you to don't fluff it. Really think about it. Now, what we're trying to do is, guess what? We're trying to squeeze our mind into this moment of our life where we're just before death. And what we're trying to do is get to that point. It's the omega point, right at the end of our life. Now, through a meditation like this, through answering a question like this, it's not going to be 100% the same. Nothing's going to quite capture the moment, but you can get a lot of wisdom out of it. You can get a lot of juice out of the orange, so to speak. And so what we're trying to do is shrink this down to get really hyper-focused on those last moments of our life. Is because guess what? On the last day of your life, you're going to get a glimpse of the soul. Because guess what? Remember I said you're a three-part being made up of soul, of mind, and of body. And the more body-guided you are, the more animalistic you are, the more you're acting from downward on the scale, the more you're going into the loser area of life. The more your soul guided, the more you can tap into that, the more you go up the scale. Guess what happens then? When all the desires of the body and the mind are off the table because your life's about to be over, there's only one thing that will take up the contents of your mind. There's only one game left in town, and it's these things here. You'll be thinking of the people who you love, the quality of your relationships, whether your life even mattered, and what you will leave behind for others. That is what's going to take up all of your mind right in the last moments. because there's nothing left of the body. When you're going to die, you don't give a fuck about doing a new business, making more money, whether your investments are going to go up, tomorrow. You'll be dead. You don't think about the desires of the body anymore. And most of the desires or the self-centered desires of the mind don't even exist anymore. Right at that last little moment, that's why I said that little X marks the spot, that little omega point, right at the end of your life is a moment where you will get a glimpse of the soul. Now, if you can tap into that using GMP, from question 50 in the spirituality section, there's magic in those questions. It's very beautiful if you take it seriously and you do it. Now, guess what? This is what will emerge. Now, if you do this, let me know what you come up with, because you're going to go straight to the people who you love. Are they set up? All of my affairs good? Have I told them that I love them and signed off on that? That's what it's going to be. And then you're going to be reviewing your life. You know how people say in that last moment before they think they're going to die, they have a near-death experience. Their life flashes before their eyes. You will review your life and you will ask yourself, did this really matter? And what am I going to leave behind? Are the people who made a difference in my life taken care of? And did I have some role in that? Now, guess what? This here is the spirit of service. This here is actually the magic. This here is when you are thinking about this and writing this down, what comes out is, like I said, a little bit of a glimpse of the soul. This is the spirit of service. And guess what the beautiful thing is? If you can take some of that and bring it down back to today, you will actually be able to deploy some of that juice for some of you another 30, 40, 50, 60 years. And you get the benefit of the death process without having to die, hopefully for another 60 or 70 years. Does that make sense? You understand that the spirit of service is how you do well in business. It's because you're having people who you want to serve. You're building quality relationships with the market and with your customers. You're building products and services that actually make a difference in people's lives, and you're leaving that gift with them. The spirit of service is how you grow a brand. It's how you get magnetism. It's how you make a social impact. It's how you do better relationships and family. It's coming from the spirit of service. And the magic is held in those last few moments of life. And we can access it by asking questions and then squeezing our mind right at the end. Like, what would I do in those final moments? And what comes out is often something that you can take some nuggets of and start acting on today. Is because when you put your life on a timeline, you realize that some of you are going to have 60 years left. Life remaining line, and I'm going to give you a little tool to do that. And so what if you could tap into the spirit of service and actually use it over the next 40, 50, 60 years? I guarantee if you do, you'll make better products, you'll do more inspiring businesses, you'll have more magnetism in your personal brand and in your offers and the way you speak and all of your social connections. You will do better work, and you'll actually probably do better in every area of life. So there's another tool, and I'm going to link you to it right now in the chat. It's called the Legacy Builder. Now, some of you who are in School of Mastery have seen a version of this, but this is the latest and greatest version of it, and it's a beautiful thing. Let me show you how to use it. It's going to look like this. I can see some of you are coming into it now. Very good. You're going to click File, and then you're going to hit Make a Copy, and then you're going to have it save a copy of it, and then you can use it yourself. Now, let me explain how this thing works. We're going to put our whole life out on a vertical like this, and we're going to split it into 5 time zones, starting from the bottom. The bottom is over the next 12 months. Then we go to the 5-year shift. Then it's a 10-year plan. And then the top 2 lines. One is the final chapter when you're in old age. How do you want to live when you're in old age? And the top one is your 100-year plan. Remember before I said, as you're getting close to being a more soul-guided individual, you have a broader time horizon that you're operating out of, making decisions out of, planning for. As a round number, a 100-year plan in every area of life is not a bad thing to do. And so you want to think about that. Now, in 100 years, some of you might be dead, which means that everything that you put there is not going to be about you. It's not going to be about your pleasure. It's not going to be about the enjoyment of your body. It's going to be legacy. It's called legacy. That's why we're building our legacy. It's very powerful to build a legacy. Remember what I said? Deep down, everyone has this yearning. Now, in the interim, if I took a real dumb fuck out off the street who was animal, you know what I said before, like right on the border of they're human, but bloody hell, pretty much an animal. And all they can think about is, where's my next meal coming from? They're fucking animals. and you talk to them about leaving a legacy, they'll glaze over. Gravy brain, instant. If they can't fathom that, you can understand. But when you have someone now who has $100 million in the bank and a global business and a large family dynasty building up and heaps of social influence, and they are at an age where they need to try and prolong their health for as long as they can now, guess what they're thinking? They're thinking, they're thinking legacy. Now, even if you're earlier in the journey, you can start thinking about that now. There's no reason you can't. You give yourself permission to start thinking about the legacy that you'd love to live and start crafting it. That's why we use a tool like this. So the first thing you're going to do is fill in the white cells. Date of birth, let's go the 12th of May. This is Robbie's birthday, by the way, Robbie. 12th of May, 1994, let's just say. Now, target age, she's a healthy bitch, so she'll probably fucking live until like 110, let's say. So target age, also is a question in GMP. It's like how, if you could choose, and you might not get to, but if you could choose, what age would you love to live to? Write it down. And so what this tool will say is that you're currently 31.6 is Robbie, and your life remaining is 78.4 years. So 71% of her life is still to go. Isn't that cool? That's lovely. Then what we have is every area of life across this horizontal. And then, like I said, the 5 areas. Now, the 5 time zones. And so we always do 1 year, 5 year, 10 year. And then we go old age legacy. Now, what it does here is it says in the next 12 months, age 32, and it has like the years here. The next 5-year shift, because that's a nice time frame, I think, for setting goals. Someone asked me recently, I think it was last night, how do I know what time frame I set the goals for? Is because what I want to do right now is this. But, if I'm thinking about like if money were no limiting factor, it's like this. And so, how do I negotiate the different goals that I'm going to have through time? And it was a good question. And the answer is this. So you're going to have 12 months goals, 5-year goals, 10-year goals, and so on and so forth. You guys can sort of understand that. And so what I usually do here is I start at the bottom and then work upwards. And so the next 12 months is very simple. What do you want to have in wealth and in money? Now, when you put your mouse over these areas, it gives you some instructions. And so the question is during this period, which is next 12 months, let's say we're answering this one here. Let's say we're answering this cell here. And so the question is during this period, what must be true in your wealth and money? And include this here. Include 1. Which is an acronym. The O is the outcome that you're going to be living in this time frame. The N is the non-negotiable standards that you uphold. And the E is the evidence that proves it's real. Outcome is the vision that you'd love to have. I'd love to have a certain type of house. The non-negotiable, a hard floor. I will not live in X, Y, and Z suburbs. These are my hard things. And I'm not going to live in a suburb that ranks on the top 40 or in my state of the most crime-ridden shitholes. That, for example, that might be a non-negotiable if we're talking about where you would love to live. And then the E is the evidence to prove that it's real, and it will be either like a title deed to the property or a rental contract or whatever, and that's evidence. And so that's a real hard thing. And so, for example, outcome. It could be in this area, compounding net worth in the next year, no personal debt, less dependent on me working for time, and having some more options. The non-negotiable is I save and invest at least 30% of my after-tax income, and the evidence of it coming true is I'm going to have a $2 million net worth or a $250,000 combined type A and type B income. And so just to save time, I might just type that in here. And so what you do is you start typing things in. The outcome, the non-negotiable standards, and the evidence of it coming true. How do you know that if this is real? And so in wealth or money, it's easy because in 5 years, you go up with net worth. If that's what you would love to, if that's what you've written in your GMP. Remember, you're doing this near the end of GMP, and so you've just answered 500 to 600 questions on all the things that you'd love in all of these areas. And so after you've done the GMP, this all should flow very, very easily. In 5 years, I want the net worth to be, I don't know, in this case, maybe it's 3 million, and then income of 500K a year or something like that from type A and B income. The scalable types of income, the modern freedom types of income. And then we can go all the way up to a 100-year legacy. By 100 years from now, you may want to have an estate that's being managed and there's $100 million in it. And even after you're dead, you have instructions for how that is to be managed and where those funds go and the causes that you believe to be important and how that money gets allocated. And so you could have a financial legacy. You could have a knowledge and mental legacy. Everyone clear on how to do this? So you start at the bottom, go to the top, and then some of you are going to be asking, like, well, how can I have a health and well-being legacy? I'm dead. Is a common objection to this process. There's many people who have had health legacies. Do you understand? Hippocrates was the first one. 2,500 years ago, he came up with some shit. And to this day, every doctor still swears the Hippocratic Oath, do not cause harm, as being the first one. You guys understand? And so he created health doctrines 2,500 years ago. And it's still being discussed every day today in every modern surgery in every doctor's office. Gray's Anatomy. You guys know that was written like 170 years ago, was Gray's Anatomy. And they still use it today. That's a book that was written 170 years ago. There's heaps of books. There's heaps of things. One of my favorite books of all time is The Kybalion. William Walker Atkinson wrote it in the early 1900s. It's over 100 years old, and it's a book that made one of the big differences in my life. And so you don't want to default into just thinking that life is, you just got to go and find the latest trends and do this short-term, milk as much value out of the latest trends as possible kind of shit. You know, you want to look up some of the businesses. Japan has a lot of them. Some of the businesses that have lasted hundreds and hundreds of years, in some cases thousands of years in Japan. There's a sake company, you know, the alcohol. There's a sake company that's like 400 years old and they still sell it today. You want to look at some of the mindsets when they are running businesses like this and keeping their business in a family for hundreds and hundreds of years. And one of the things is they're not so interested in fads and trends and the latest, let's get rich quick. They're interested in building a brand over a long period of time and providing value and becoming more value and becoming more service. Remember what I said? At the level of the soul, there is the spirit of service. There is an X factor that we all have. And if we tap into that, we have a higher probability of building something that stands the test of time. If we're down operating from the body, which is more of the energy of how am I going to get rich quick so I can buy a Ferrari and buy a Rolex or some of this shit, which I've been there, done that. I own all that too. But it is a body-guided, lower-minded thing. And often what is the fastest, easiest solution in the short term doesn't stand the test of time. And so it gets back to, where do you want to play on the scale? The majority of people err downwards. What I hope, or at least is some of my intention of the GMP program, is that you give yourself permission to err upwards by doing some of these processes, by doing the legacy builder tool, by answering spirituality questions 50, 51, 52, and all of them, really, frankly. We've put together 600 questions that are very carefully curated. They are very robust. It's a very robust set of questions if you do them properly. Family and relationships, 100-year legacy. You guys realize that most people, unless you're definitely not having kids, most of us are going to have at least 30 people in the downline. That's just the math of, in 100 years, starting at where we are now, there's going to be 3 new generations, let's say 2 kids each. It's like 30 kids. And you think that, the way that you're the top of that, you're the top of the pyramid of at least 30 kids in just a 100-year time frame. 30 people can change the world, by the way. 30 people make a big difference in the world, can make a big difference. One of them can make a big difference in the world. And what are you going to pass on? What knowledge, what wisdom, what practices? And to the degree you do a good job of that, you change the world. Most people have a family legacy to that end. Elise says, Craggy Range Winery, yeah. Yeah, the Peabody the Peabody family in Australia, one of Australia's wealthiest families, they have a vineyard, Craggy Range. I think it's in New Zealand. Is that right, Elise? They have a 100-year family plan for one of their wineries, the Craggy Range Winery. And they bought this vineyard in a 100-year trust, and there's rules that it cannot be sold out of the family. And so, again, they're very wealthy people thinking 100 years out, we're going to buy something that stands the test of time and can be serving people. They're going to be dead. They're going to be dead by the time in 100 years. But they're thinking that far out into the future. They're thinking about their downline. They're thinking about their kids and their kids' kids and their kids' kids' kids. They're thinking about the service to humanity. They are connected more closely to the spirit of service than what an animal is. Yeah, is it 1,000-year, the Craggy Range, or 100-year? It could be 1,000. It could be 1,000, yeah. 1,000 year. There you go. There you go. Yeah, you guys know that on the on the season 1 of this tool in School of Mastery from about 7 years ago, we went to 1,000 years. Remember that? This one goes to 100 years because more people can stomach 100 than 1,000. Gets really, really abstract then. But yeah, no, those fuckers are thinking 1,000 years out. You're right. Isn't that cool? So I'm not going to go through this, obviously. Rather, what I'm going to do is show you one that I prepared earlier. Here we go. This is kind of a little bit like what it will look like when you fill it out. You have your date of birth, target age, and then every area is filled in. And so I'll give you an example here. You might have a business in Korea, one clear leveraged online offer in the next 12 months. I think that's a good goal for a lot of people. Non-negotiables is it's going to be one core offer only. The evidence that it's coming true in 12 months from now is that you have 10,000 a month coming in type B. Very doable. And then you go up, in 5 years, how do you want it to look? Maybe it's 120,000 a year. In 10 years, how do you want it to look? Maybe $1 million a year by then, and so on and so forth. This is what I did. I did this many years ago, and I come up with the School of Mastery. Let's say you've done that. What I want to do now is I'm going to show you the new tab that I guarantee none of you have seen this. And so here's how this works. You've got to use ChatGPT. And look, I have a bit of a love-hate with large language models at the time of this recording. I think they're amazing. I think they're beneficial, but I do think that people go into gravy brain and they rely on them for everything, and they take everything that they say as gospel. And I don't always think that they're that smart. Sometimes I think if you really stress test ChatGPT a lot, like what we do, we're doing hundreds and hundreds of prompts a day, you learn that it's actually a bit of a dumb fuck. The more you use it, the more you realize it's pretty dumb actually. But it's definitely a useful service, and so we use it to the best of our ability. What I'm going to give you here is a use case where I think it actually does a brilliant job. And so here we go. I'm going to go to new chat, and then I'm just going to click into this one here so it just is a temporary chat. What I do, and I'm going to show you how to do this. What I do is I come to the first one and hit train ChatGPT. So finish this off. You're going to do every area and through all the 5 timelines. Then what you're going to do is you're going to come in here, copy this green barcode, I call it, and then you open up your ChatGPT and you hit paste. Now, what it's going to do is it's going to get all of your answers that you typed in, and it's going to summarize them and analyze them and then output them in useful different formats. He has just acknowledged here that he's analyzed it. And then what you do is you come to this button now and you click done. That means that, the reason I make you do that is so that you know that ChatGPT has been trained on your information. Because then you can come down to number 2, Life OS. Now I come down, I click copy on that, come back to ChatGPT, hit paste again, second prompt. The best way to get the maximum out of ChatGPT is do it in multiple different prompts. Train it, and then you ask for the output that you want. So remember, what it's doing is it's just taking the info that I already put in. Life OS. A personal operating system for a 100-year legacy. Here we go. And so this is what it will output for you. It's beautiful. Core purpose: to live with integrity, to build ethical leverage, to steward wealth and health, and transmit enduring value so my influence outlives me. So with global non-negotiable constraints, in this case, health over ambition. And so what it's done is it's got all of everything you wrote in. It looked at your non-negotiables. It looked at your goals through time. It looked at all the different areas, and it summarized them into your overall global non-negotiables based on your answers. No success in this case has been worth your bodily or mental decline. You have a value on integrity, freedom over status, systems over doing heroic work, so on and so forth. Domain rules, and so now health and well-being. Objectives: energy, resilience, and independence for life. Minimum 7.5 hours of sleep nightly. Train 4 times a week. Now, it's not just making this shit up. This is what you fed into your goals. Wealth, so it gives you an overview, because you guys know that this, from my old version of it, this is a bit of a bloody smacking of eye retina, isn't it? It's not very nice on the retina display. Like, you can't extract a lot of information out of that. And so that's why I've created this summary now. And so it goes through every area. It gives you the key points for that area, the rules, the non-negotiables, etc. It gives you a decision-making protocol, so on and so forth. And so then you can print that, and it's actually a much more usable and digestible piece of information. So we're going to click that. Yes, we've done that. And maybe you copy it from ChatGPT and paste it somewhere else, get it off the platform. But then we can go down to 10 principles, and there's just more. And all you're doing is just copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. And what the copying does is it just copies the preloaded prompt in that I've put in there for you. Now, again, there is a value in having some life guiding principles. Ray Dalio talked about this in his book. It's called Principles. And he said that there is a value in extracting the principles of your life, the principles that you stand for. In his case, because he's has accomplished so much, he turned it into a bloody book. And but you might have one for your family in your family meetings. I protect my health first. In this is obviously not my fucking answers, that's for sure. I protect my health first. No ambition justifies breaking body or mind. I choose integrity over my growth. A design for freedom. And so what it is beautiful little 10 commandments that you can use. We've done that. Now this is really neat. This is very practical. What this is a decision-making framework. And what it is it includes gates. Now, because what is one of the things? Remember I said we're making 35,000 decisions a day. Most of them are micro decisions, but every now and then you got to make big decisions. And one of the questions that we get a lot in School of Mastery, and one of the questions in life for life in general is like, what is the framework by which you make decisions? And it's a good question. This answers that and creates a binary yes-no decision filter based on the goals that you want to accomplish and the non-negotiables through your life in every area of life. I guarantee you fuckers don't have anything else in terms of a software or a system that looks at everything that you say you want in life and gives you a decision-making framework for that. I'll give an example. Step 1, any answer is yes, you decline this decision immediately. And so this is for investment decisions, business decisions, relationship decisions, any decision. Does this predictably damage my health, sleep, or mental calm? If yes, the answer is no. Does this require ethical bending or image management or half-truths? And so therefore, does it dick with my integrity? If yes, no. Does this reduce my freedom or lock me into long-term obligations that I can't exit cleanly? If yes, no. Does this require me to be constantly present to succeed? Because we have a value on creating systems and getting leverage. If yes, then the answer is no. Does this pull my time or attention away from my family in a way that I'd regret later? If yes, then the answer is no. And is this driven by status validation or the fear of missing out? I think we talked about probably in one of the recent ones, if people had this decision-making filter on all of the investment schemes that they get themselves into, it would help. Would I advise my future child or my younger self to avoid this path? If yes, then the answer is no. So that's step 1. And remember, it's looked at every area of your life. Step 2, these are required yes conditions. We've got to meet them all. So number 8, question 8, does this align with my long-term leverage and freedom goals? Can this compound without increasing my weekly hours or cognitive load? Does this reinforce who I am becoming at 50, 80, and 100 years of age? Isn't this a beautiful little filter? And by the way, this is custom. When you guys do it, you're going to have different ones. It's going to come up with different ones. Then you have a short version of it. So you can turn it into a little wallet card or a little notes app, you have a pin thing. That will help you go through your life with a lot more certainty in making decisions. And it's already coded in for what you want to achieve in every area of life through all the time of your life, including after your life. That's beautiful. That's powerful. Scorecard, final thing that I want to show you. Copy, paste. All we do is copy, paste, copy, paste. Life scorecard. This is cool. Those of you who are into testing, measuring, gamifying life, this is beautiful. Check this out. Life scorecard. Weekly review, 10 to 50 minutes. Who here in the pursuit of creating an amazing life, designing their life, can put in 10 minutes a week? Of course you can. Probably less. It's probably 2 minutes a week, really. Health. So guess what it does? It goes through every area of life. Average sleep per night. And then it gives you a little thing. How many hours did you get on average? And then the target is 7.5. Training sessions completed, blah, blah, out of 4, target 4. Now, where did it get the target from? Because that's what we said that we needed to hit. These were the outcomes that we needed to hit in the health area of life. You can even see it here. 7 hours minimum in my non-negotiables and exercising 4 times a week. And so it's pulling what the hell your goals were and it's giving you this beautiful scorecard. And so you go through the health and you tick it off. Mental clarity, journaling sessions completed out of 7. Social consumption, blah, blah, blah. Good. Work hours this week, target being 25 or less. because we want modern freedom. Number of active projects. Hey, people need that because if people are doing too many fucking projects. Family. How many dinners were we present with phone away? Maybe that's a family rule, a non-negotiable. You put your phones down when you're at the table and you eat and you converse. I think that's a beautiful thing. You can do a metric on turnaround time. 48 hours, actually, I think is too much. I think you can do much quicker than that. And then you can do quarterly reviews and it will print that too. It's a bit of a longer term thing. And then annual review. This gives you a checklist for life. This gives you a scorecard, and it's relevant and it's tailored to you. And so that's why I think this new version is very, very powerful. You fill these in, and then you use the coach, use a bit of AI. And this is a use case where I think AI does a really good job, because it's not having to think that much or come up with stuff on your behalf. It's actually just looking at what you wrote and then summarizing it and outputting it in different formats. And I think it is brilliant at doing that. That's where it really excels. Good. So that's the Legacy Builder. So everyone's got that. Everyone has clicked the link, made a copy, got it now. You've downloaded it. It's all good. This is GMP. I've spent now 3 parts talking about it. And let me just summarize everything we've talked about. GMP is the key to manifestation. The first part I talked about how to manifest, the mechanism of the manifestation and the creation process. This is the way to level up in life. I explained there are levels in life. The masters of life, the masters of life, and the losers of life. If you want to get up that scale, this is a very efficient way to do it. This is the cure, by the way, for the number 1 biggest regret in life. You guys know what that is? They studied all the people on their deathbed and they asked them, what do you regret in life? They compiled all the answers. Guess what the number 1 regret in life was? It was, I wish I had the courage to live true to myself rather than to live for all the other people. Remember in, I think it was part 2, I talked about Freud's superego. It's the injected values of other people. It's the ejections of their masculine high mind into the womb of your lower mind. And what you're doing is you're giving birth to their ideas, their life. And because you're injecting the ideas of so many different fucking people, you have a shit show. You have a big cream pie city in there and you're raising bastard child fruits. What you manifest in life, what shows up in the physical plane, is the son in the image of the father. And that is an allegory. It's a metaphor for the human psyche. The father is the masculine projecting higher mind. And if it comes from your own higher mind, you have a clean, crisp manifestation. If you're injecting the values of every second idiot you see on social media, you're going to have a complete cacophony. It's a wishy-washy shit show of all kind of conflicting crap. The way to overcome that regret is to stop listening to the authorities on the outside and to strengthen the higher mind. And the best way to do that is to answer hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of questions to strengthen it up. Take your mind to the gym. That helps you overcome the biggest regret in life because it's the best gym workout for your mind that possibly exists. It's backed by science extensively. Go to ChatGPT and look up life crafting and look at the studies behind life crafting. It'll actually blow your mind at all the benefits that you get from doing exactly this process. This process, in case you didn't realize, integrates 72 disciplines in life. The questions that we've curated covers spirituality, it covers the religion, it covers philosophy, hermeticism, psychology. It covers all of finance, investing psychology, relationships, family dynamics, the law of heuristic escalation. It's got 72 disciplines that are integrated into the questions that you ask when you do a GMP process. It covers every area of life. It's fun and it's affordable. I think that if you don't do a GMP, that you're crazy. That you're a little bit crazy. And so if you haven't done it yet, buildmygmp.com if you don't already have it. And if you do have access to it, then the next step is to actually do it. Actually do it. Don't just believe me. It'll change your life. And let me know. Always do. Always message us and let us know when you do a GMP and then when you start to see it coming true. When you start to see the things that you wrote down, that you start thinking about and getting clear on, starting to manifest. It's inspiring for you guys. It's inspiring for us. And I think it's a pretty neat project. The Grandmaster Plan. That concludes our 3-part series. Do we have any questions?